conduct any business until a minute or two later, and we won't be doing that anyways because we've got presentations and invocations and all that. So let me at this time call Diego Bautista up. He's from John Adams Elementary and is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you can remain standing, Jane Routh, our police chaplain, is going to give our invocation. Please go ahead, Diego.
Please join me in the flag salute. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Diego, could you introduce your father? Is your father standing right next to you?
Yes.
What is his name?
Regal.
And he's decorated in the service. Can you tell us, or would you like to say something, sir?
Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Sergeant First Class Bautista. I'm with the National Guard. Did 13 years in the Marine Corps. Born and raised here in Santa Ana. Graduated from Saddleback High School, and I'm serving here locally right now in the National Guard.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing your son Diego here today.
You're welcome.
Thank you. If you can remain standing, Jane Routh is going to give us our invocation.
Will you join me in time of silence here? We take this moment, God, to pause and remember that we do not walk alone in this life. We weren't meant to, but that you are right here with us. You, God, have given us others to enjoy life with, given us a community of family and friends and neighborhoods, given us opportunity to use our talents and gifts for blessing each other. And you have given us this place called the city of Santa Ana to be our home. A beautiful, unique city with people from all parts of the world who enrich our lives. For this city, we are thankful and blessed. So tonight, as these elected officials and civic servants and people of Santa Ana come together, God bless and guide their work. Keep us mindful of the kind of community that you dream for your world, that we will, with kindness and determination, work for that good. May we keep mindful tonight that people matter to you. Everyone, that person sitting next to us, that neighbor down the street, even the person that disagrees with us. People matter, and help us to honor each other with civility and grace, and so find good resolve and solution that build community. So help us to imagine the possible of what we can do when we work together. Bless and keep safe all our civic workers, teachers, police force, and our leaders who serve our city daily. This is our prayer. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. As we begin tonight's council meeting, I have a special presentation which is going to be made by our Neil Peterson, the CEO of the Transportation Corps Agency, on the nonstop travel. But before you come forward, I want to ask Councilor Martinez if she would like to say a few words. I know she serves on that representing the city.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Polito. And as Neil approaches, I also want to thank Lisa Tejas, who's also in the audience as well, for being here this evening. I'm not going to, steal Neil's thunder here, but, as he's going to discuss the toll roads, as we look at both agencies within the toll roads, having the understanding that as we deal with congestion in Orange County, this is another alternative to alleviate that congestion in Orange County and to help not only the residents of Orange County and Santa Ana, but many residents within Los Angeles and Riverside use the toll roads as well. And so I think it's very imperative that he is here tonight to really highlight, some of the new changes with the toll roads, but also the importance of why the toll roads are important here in Orange County and how our residents can utilize it if they do work in South County. Neil?
Thank you very much, Councilmember Martinez and Mayor. Nice to see you again and other members of the council. Thank you for the time. I do want to give you an update on where we are and some changes we're making that I think you'll be real interested in. First of all, as you know, we operate 4 toll roads in the county. the 241, the 261, the 133, and the 73. And if you think back, about 25 years ago, the state did not have enough money to build roads. Does this sound familiar? And so the leadership of Orange County got together and went to the state and asked the state to allow us to set up an agency, a local agency, run and by local officials, and gave us the tools to go out and raise private capital, not taxpayer dollars, but private capital to build what now represents 30% of the lane miles in Orange County. And 250,000 people a day use our roads. Imagine if they weren't there. I mean, we'd have to add 2 lanes, the equivalent of 2 lanes on every single road you're thinking about. So our job basically is to attract as many people as possible to our roads, because not only does it allow us to pay back the bonds of the people that loaned us the money to build these roads, but every person that comes onto our roads means somebody's not on the 405, the 55, the 5, the 91. So it's a win-win situation. So a little history here. We were the first toll roads in California. We're the largest set of toll roads in California. We're the first to have fast track. We were the ones that invented it, patented it. So fast track is now used throughout the state, not only in Orange County, but also LA, about to be Riverside, about to be San Bernardino, San Diego, and of course in the Bay Area. As I mentioned, we have 250,000 people a day using it, but one of the important things, sometimes we call these Orange County's roads, but really these are regional lifelines. 40% of our transponder holders live outside of the county. They live in they live in LA County, San Bernardino, Riverside, and San Diego. 80% of the people that come on to the 241 in the AM peak are from outside of Orange County. And 80% of the people that are going out of the county in the evening are going to outside of the county. So what's our value proposition? We're providing an express choice. So the major thing that we're offering is a predictable trip. You know that when you get on our roads, you will get to where you want to go by a certain period of time. Am I too loud?
No, I just want the city clerk to lower the other mic, because otherwise it's right in the middle of you speaking to us. Please continue, Neil.
Thank you. So the first part of the value proposition is a predictable trip. The second piece is obviously the time savings. And the third piece is kind of, when I talk to people about why they like our roads, they say it's a quality of life issue. It's less stress, knowing that you can enjoy the ride. How do our customers pay? 80% of our customers pay through Fast Track. And you know how that operates. You basically put this on your windshield, you preload the account. If you don't use it, $25 worth a month, we charge you a monthly fee of $2, and it's able to be used throughout the region, throughout the state. What we're going to talk about today are the 16% of our users that don't use Fast Track and currently have to stop at the toll booths to pay cash. And we've talked to our customers, and they don't want to have to, if they're going to pay a toll, they don't want to have to stop at the toll booths. So we found a way, a technology improvement, to allow that to occur, which I want to describe to you today. So we're introducing a new account called an Express account. And you won't have to stop at the toll plazas. You won't have to fumble or search for exact change. More importantly, you won't have the fear of not knowing where and how to get off or on and what you have to pay. You won't have to have a transponder. There's no need to prepay. There'll be no monthly account fee. And what we're doing is introducing what we call license plate tolling technology. So we will be able to take a picture of your plate, and by that, rather than using a transponder, we'll be able to then charge your account on a transactional basis, just as if you were going to Target or Starbucks. At the end of the day, we'll charge you for your trip, and that's it. So we think there's 3 pieces of information we're going to need. We're going to need your contact info, we're going to need your license plate number, and we're going to need your credit card. And that's it, to have an Express account. So we're hoping that everybody will sign up. Right now, about 10% of the residents of Santa Ana have a transponder. We'd like the remaining 90% to sign up for an Express account. These signs are not up yet, but this is what you'll start to see over the next couple of months. May will be the last time you can pay cash. So we're in the process now of educating the public, and that's why I'm here today, to tell you about this. And we're offering, as of 3-4 days ago, we're offering a limited time offer of we'll put $30 on your account if you sign up in the next 2 months. So you have 3 ways of paying. You have the Fast Track, which you're familiar with, the Express account that I just talked about. If you want, you can prepay that if you want, or if you want us to invoice you, we'll do it. Most of the people that are using it so far are using the credit card. And then finally, we have what we call one-time toll. I don't know if anybody here is old enough to remember the Burma Shave ads. Do you remember those? When you go along the road and there's about 7 ads in a row about Burma Shave? There's an old saying in marketing, you have to tell somebody 7 times before they get it. So we're sort of adopting that here. We're going to have signs on the road that talk about if you don't have a transponder, don't have a license plate, Express account, still you can ride our roads, but just go to go to either our website or go to our mobile app within 48 hours and pay your toll, and everything's fine. So that's for those people primarily who use it very infrequently, people that come into John Wayne, they're visiting and what have you. And we've been meeting over the last several days with the Orange County Visitors Association and others, the Concierge Association and others to get this message out. So we're very proud about the fact that this year represents our 20th anniversary of introducing Fast Track. You've got something here in this county that's a real gem, in my opinion, and we're with leadership like Councilmember Martinez and other board members, we're trying to do the best we can to attract as many people to our roads for the reason I mentioned earlier. Every person that comes on our road means there's somebody less, one less person on the 405, the 5, the 55, and the 91. So maybe I'll stop at that point and open up.
Thank you. It's a wonderful presentation. I just want to thank you because you guys are always looking to improve technology and the experience for the user. Councilor Martinez, and then
just very quickly,
Sarmiento.
Neil, can you please just highlight some of the things that we are also doing for the Latino community as we transition into, moving into prepaid?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, we're modifying both our web and our website so people can click whether they want it in Spanish or English. We've always had and continue to have, when you call into our customer assistance, we have the option, anybody can talk in either language. And I guess most importantly, what you're probably referring to, is that we've started an outreach program with our marketing efforts that is much more geared toward making sure that we reach Latino homes and Latina media. So because the research that we've done shows, and I'm not really sure why, but it shows that Spanish-speaking Latinos are much more inclined to understand the value and the benefits of the pricing and the benefits that we provide as a toll road. So we see that as a major market for us, and so we're actively trying to reach them and educate them and recruit them.
Thank you for that. Councilor Vince Sarmiento, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Neil, for that presentation. I see a good friend in the audience there. Hey, Lisa, how are you? Before Council Member Martinez became a director at TCA, I was on TCA, and I was worked with your predecessor, Tom Margro,
Sure.
Who came from BART, and I was living in the Bay Area at the time. So a lot of good things with toll roads and public transportation. And I like what the council member to my right said about outreaching to the Spanish language, and what I would suggest as well, something that we were talking about, the Vietnamese as well, but also our college students at SAC. They tend to go out and work in different places throughout the county, and students, look, they want efficiency, don't want to stop and pay, and so the all-electronic tolling that was decided, for us to move in that direction, I think was a good move. We refinanced a lot of bonds at that time as well, and some of our loans that were outstanding over at San Joaquin. But I guess one of the questions I had was, how's the 241 extension doing? Are we ever going to see that terminus extended to the 5, and if not, why?
Good question.
I know it's an easy one, so.
Yeah, right. If I could just back up 1 second and report to you that you referred to the refinancing or the restructuring of the 73, the San Joaquin, in January, just last month. We refinanced in the largest refinancing in the country last year, the refinancing the 241. So it's a $2.3 billion refinancing. So that allows the 241 going forward to be on much sounder financial footing. It's like refinancing your home. We've lowered the monthly debt payments so that our income covers that well enough so that all the bondholders and the people that are concerned about that have less to worry about. Having said that, to answer your question directly, I've had a lot of experience in delivering major transportation projects. I used to run the LA County Transportation Commission. I ran AC Transit in the Bay Area. I ran Seattle Metro. And my experience is that when you're building major capital projects, you've got to have a pretty large tent of support. You've got to have a broad coalition of support to make it happen in today's environment. And although we have tremendous support from labor, from business, from our cities, and from our customers, we don't have good support in the environmental community. And so right now we're working, I'm using I'm relatively new, like your city manager. I'm saying, hey, I'm the new sheriff on the block. And so I'm going out and talking to all the people that have had problems with the project up to now over the last 20 years and trying to reopen the dialogue. I don't know where that'll lead, but we're hopeful that we can find a solution that we can get a broader base of support for moving forward.
Well, listen, don't give up that battle. I think that you have a lot of supporters throughout the county, even though they may be sort of a silent majority, but you need to access them. Over at the Water District and MODOC, we're looking at a desalination plant as well. It's got obviously some critics that are, and not critics in the bad sense, those that are sensitive to the impacts of the environmental community. Just make sure there's ways to mitigate this. We just all need to get our congressional, our state representatives to be supportive of this. Obviously, labor is looking at this very carefully. So the more you can work with those folks, the more you can work with some of the cities that need to have mobility and some answers to mobility here. We're getting congested, so all that helps, but keep up the good work. I'm glad you guys are doing good things.
Well, thank you for those words of encouragement. We are bound and determined to find an alternative to I-5 going south.
Thank you. Any other questions? If Councilor Benavides?
One quick question. Thank you, Neil, for being here and bringing this information, both for council benefit of the folks here in the audience and those at home as well. I've been a user of the toll roads at times, folks moving out to Riverside County and such and doing work out there. Fast Track has been very convenient. Question with regard to I'm looking at your presentation here, but the express, what was it, the term here, the express account?
Yes, sir, that's right.
Once the cash booths, paying booths go away, are they going to go away? And my question is, for those who don't sign up for this prior to that, what's the alternative, or what happens?
Well, and we're trying to encourage everybody to sign up before that happens. But if they don't sign up prior to that, then they'll be able to do what we call the one-time toll, where you go through and we have those signs at the end of the road that say, look, go to our website or our mobile app within 48 hours and pay your toll.
Okay.
Once you do that, we provide an encouragement for you to then sign up at that point in time, so you won't have to do that again.
Okay. And if not, then there might be a bill of some sort in the mail that they'll be able to respond to.
Right. If they don't pay within 48 hours, then there's a fine.
Fine.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you, Mayor.
Take care.
Thank you.
So with that, I have an announcement to make, and then we'll go to the next presentation. And the announcement is for a lot of the folks that I think that are in the lobby, actually, but the Bristol Street Coalition and people that are focused on item 55A as an apple. We are not going to be taking that up tonight. We're going to be continuing at staff request for 30 days, is it? Or what is 30 days? So we're going to be continuing it, but again, I'll probably just have to make the announcement again, because I don't think those folks are. Please.
Mayor, we'll go back there and talk to the people and tell them.
Yeah, please let them know. And so with that, I want to call upon Ulrich Unger. If you are here, please come on down. I'm going to make a presentation here in a moment. Please come on down.
Everyone
Ulrich can't be here tonight. He's unfortunately ill, but his wife is here. And why don't you step forward, and then Tim, I may want to have you say some words as well, because I want to recognize you both as the Exceptional Citizens Recognition. And let me just read a few things, because I think you and your husband have done a tremendous thing, and you're tremendous things over life, but you're also a wonderful part of this community here in Santa Ana, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you. Ulrich Unger was born in Czechoslovakia, January 13th, 1934, and was famous as the celebrity host of the children's nature program on Czech radio called Monitor. After standing up to communist oppression, his and family were stripped of their Czech citizenship, and they lost also their employment. They had to leave Czechoslovakia and ultimately landed in New York and moved west and came to Santa Ana, which they've adopted as their new home. In 1983, Mr. Unger and his family purchased their first home here in Washington Square neighborhood, which they renovated and has become really a big part of Washington Square home tour, and also they became active in the Santa Ana Historical Preservation Society. Mr. Unger, sir, became actively involved in serving as block representative, board member, committee member for many neighborhood events. Among many projects, he hand-carved new red wood clock hands for the historic Spurgeon Clock Tower over on 4th Street. Remember that building that's got the clock tower? He carved out the wooden hands. Also, he's been the subject of 2 books, which were published last year. 99 Most Influential People in Czech Radio, and a second book about Prague theater. In addition, Czech Journal and the Academy of Science featured Ulrich in an article in December 2013 for his skill in recording the sounds of nature in the wild for his radio program. And here he has done so much to work with our community. There's such wonderful, loving, giving people, and like other folks here in the city, often we don't take a moment to recognize them and to say thank you. So I just want to take a moment to do that today. And before I present your proclamation, would you like to say anything on your husband's behalf? Or Tim, would you like to add a few words?
I would like to thank you that you... That close?
Yes.
Okay. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I apologize that Aldrich is unfortunately not able to move, so he could not come. But I would like to thank you to American people that we were able to come to live here, and I also thank to Santa Ana, which is my home for 30 years now. Thank you.
Well, that's how that works. Ulrich and Ivana have 3 children, and I'm proud to say that they've sort of adopted me as a 4th son. Their 3 boys couldn't be here, and so I'm proud to be here and have a tiny little part in helping to celebrate them as great citizens of Santa Ana and of our country. Ulrich and Ivana, I think, embody all the very best that we would hope that immigrants would be, and in terms of just becoming a part of their adopted hometown and home country. And I want to thank the mayor and the council for this recognition. It's very nice. Thank you very much, Miguel.
Thank you. If I may, I want to present on behalf of the City Council this proclamation recognizing Ulrich Unger as an exceptional citizen. And look, I know there was a newspaper article recently in the Register singing your collective praises, and it's just wonderful to see that, because again, folks are not thanked enough. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to turn things over to Mayor Pro Tem Saltina Harrow, and I think he has the next presentation. I think it's for the cheerleaders from the Marnock, so if you can start coming up, here's Mayor Pro Tem Saltina Harrow. Come on down.
All right, all our Monarch cheerleaders, come on up. Parents, you can clap for them. How you guys doing? So we have two groups up here tonight. Hey, how are you? We have two groups. We have the Peewee dance team. Can you guys raise your hand? Peewee dance team. And we have the junior Peewee cheer team up on stage. I need to let you know a little bit about these two teams. I'll start with the Peewee dance team. The Peewee dance team placed first. Are the first dance team in Santa Ana Pop Warner history to advance this far. They placed first at the Orange Empire Conference cheer competition. That's about 28 cities in the Empire Conference, Orange Empire Conference. They placed first at the West Coast Regional Cheer Competition. Now that cheer competition includes teams from Southern California, Arizona, Hawaii, and Southern Nevada. Did the Hawaiian teams have little hula skirts or anything? No? Okay. And because of their finish, they were selected to go, or qualified to travel to Florida and compete at the National Cheer Competition. And there, they placed a very respectable 4th place. So if we could give them a round of applause. Our Santa Ana Monarch cheerleaders. And I'd like to call up their coach, which is Patty Madrid. Is she here today? She's for the... I'm sorry. Assistant, or I don't know if I have your... Is it Yvonne? Yes. Yvonne Marquez. If you could come on up and talk a little bit about your experience and what you guys all did. Everyone says you like to talk on the microphone, so why don't you come on up?
Well, I'm really proud of the girls. It was our first year being a dance team. It was hard because we went in not knowing what we were getting into. But, once we hit our every cue, everything that we did, I mean, it was a very exciting experience for the girls, and especially going to Florida. It was our first time. Me as a coach, I've been there twice as a mom, but as a coach, it was a total different experience. It was really exciting, and I'm really proud of the girls. Thank you.
And we have a recognition for you, Yvonne, that we'd like to give to you. And at the end, we're going to give you a certificate for all of you guys, so your coach can pass it out to you. And you might, next time you guys travel, you might want to ask Council Member Michelle Martinez to teach you some moves, because she does things that I never thought were possible. Our next team that I'd like to recognize today is our Junior Peewee cheer team. And our Junior Peewee cheer team placed first in the Orange Empire Conference. They placed second at the West Coast Regional Cheer Competition, and they went all the way to Florida as well, right? Did your parents get to go with you guys? Did you guys go to Disney World or anything? You did? Which one's better, Disney World or Disneyland? Wait, what month did you guys go? Oh, no, see, that's why you say that. But if you ever go in there in the summertime, you will melt. Or a mosquito will just fly you away. They're as big as you are. So anyhow, when they went to Florida, they finished 12th in the nation, and that deserves a round of applause. And I'd like to call up both coaches, Coach Patty Madrid, if you could come on up and say a few words.
Hello, everyone. This was one of the youngest teams there. Most of the teams that make it to nationals, they've been together all year. And here in Santa Ana, we only have, our season starts in August. So we're competing against extremely strong teams. But our girls did awesome there. It was a great experience for all of us. I've been part of Santa Ana Pop Warner for 16 years, coaching for 4 years, and a parent, an involved parent for the other years. So, yes, Valerie. Yes. And hopefully we all stay together again and maybe get a couple of more girls and make it to Florida again. Thank you.
Again, you young ladies should be very proud. I know that you're going to continue to cheer, right? Okay, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. You probably don't know this, but when I was in college, I was a cheerleader. That's right. I used to throw girls up in the air and catch them and do all that stuff. So it's a cool thing. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of exercise. And I hope you guys continue to do what you do.
Mayor Pro Tem, can you show us one of... inspire these ladies, Mayor Pro Tem?
You open the door, Mayor Pro Tem, so you know.
I don't want to, if I throw them up, they're going to hit the ceiling. I don't want to, let me do a back handspring for you. No, I'm just teasing. Anyways,
Mayor Pro Tem Pinheiro got a full scholarship to go off to college.
I did
for being a
get a
cheerleader.
scholarship for cheer as well. That is correct.
Show us what a cheer scholarship does.
I'll do a toe touch later for you. Anyhow, congratulations and keep representing us. Thank you very much for coming out. We're going to give your certificates to your coaches, and we'll see you guys again next year, hopefully. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mario Villalobos. I'm actually the president of Santa Ana Pop Warner. Thank you all for having us tonight. I'm going to take advantage of this moment to present the City of Santa Ana with a plaque recognizing their support of our program over the years. For those who aren't aware, we purchased a new scoreboard last season. The city was fortunate enough we were fortunate enough for the city to actually install a new scoreboard. They saved us about $5,000 in costs. So again, just this plaque is thanking them for their help, their support over the years, and we look forward to their continued support. So.
Thank you very much.
I believe we're ready to go to the next part of our business. And first, I'd like to ask the city attorney if we have anything to report out of closed session today.
Mayor, we had 3 closed session items scheduled for today. We have 2 matters of reportable action. In the case of Laura Salcida Vargas versus the City of Santa Ana, the City Council, by a vote of 5-0, with Mayor Polito and Councilmember Reyna absent, approved a settlement of $12,000. And with respect to the liability claim for Paul Richard May, by a vote of 6-0, with Councilmember Reyna absent, the City Council approved a settlement of $19,953.12.
Thank you. And with that, I'll go to public comment. Steve Rocco, followed by Sam Romero. And then after that, Genova Garcia. And then after that, Sari Lopez.
At the conclusion of your meeting, you can pick up another handout from me now that we know each other. A couple of murders you may have not have heard of. Let me introduce you to Guy Fawkes. Guy Fawkes usually shows up at demonstrations, but people don't know too much about him. He's a Roman Catholic like I am. He was hung for supposedly planting bombs in the Parliament, sort of close to my story, where I was arrested and they had Argyros Forum at Chapman University wired with bombs, and then they cleaned it up. Never heard about that one, did you? But anyway, He even has his own holiday. He has Guy Fawkes Day on the 5th of November. It's basically I Hate Catholics Day. It's not the only one. There's also another one, Orange Day Parades, July the 12th, which I saw. I didn't bother telling anybody I was Catholic when when I saw it. I didn't participate, of course. But the point is this, is that racism comes from the top, and then it goes down to the bottom, which brings me to Kim Pham. I used to work on 4th Street, and I worked there for quite a long time, just around the corner from where she was murdered for her racial heritage. Not too many people, well, maybe you now know that she's also Roman Catholic, and probably her murderers were Roman Catholic themselves. But that doesn't stop the hatred which comes from the top and goes to the bottom in racist Santa Ana. In racist Santa Ana, 4th Street is your immorality street. It's the place where you go for drugs and perversions of all kinds. Let me give you the 3 most dangerous Mexican Americans in the United States. Mr. Polito, who brought you the federal and state dependency plantation system, which brought all of our illegals here. I don't blame them, I blame you. And now that it's worldwide, you get to be king. And also you formed your wonderful corruption committee, which is now called the Partnership. Number 2, Ruben Martinez, where all these wonderful racist rantings go on with authors and speakers about how wonderful just they are. Nobody else but just them. Number 3, we've got Gus Arellano of the OC Weekly, who weekly rants about everybody who isn't like him. And even though his girlfriend, who was here a couple of weeks ago and signed my nomination papers, he doesn't think about that. Every week it's Ask a Mexican what I hate about everybody else. So is it any wonder that Kim Pham was murdered at midnight? She made 2 mistakes. Number 1, she went to Chapman Perversity. Number 2, she came to Santa Ana. And then let's talk about, just very briefly, the partnership between Chapman Perversity and the OC Register. 2 people who are out to corrupt and pervert you here. And now their marriage is at least 1 year old. You know, I talked about murals before. Now we've got Jim Doty placard at the 17th and Main to tell you how wonderful he is. Instead of taking care of his wife who's dying of cancer, he's out mountaineering and spreading his vitriol. We'll talk
Time
again.
is red. Thank you. Sam Romero?
Thank you, Sal. Good evening, folks. I thought maybe I'd bring you a little bit of an update. Let's go back, in a sense, 30 years back. In those 30 years, we've had several, every year we have the Fiestas Patrias. Later on, about 12 years ago, we brought in Cinco de Mayo. And all this time, we've been bringing maybe 200, maybe 250,000 people at each event. And we have never had a major incident. And I think primarily it's been because it's been primarily a family type of entertainment, booths and a whole bit. And I really hate to see the continuation of beer gardens. Remember, the original Fiesta Patria was going to be a family event. So, you know, wish that we wouldn't have any more beer sales. We already have enough problems at night. We certainly don't need any more problems during the day. So don't do that, and I hope you still consider a moratorium, because now, like I say, we're right now the capital city and the county as far as marijuana is concerned. Now we're on our way to have probably the best drinking place at night and have more incidents like we've had in the last few days. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Genova Garcia, followed by Sari Lopez. And after that, Beatriz Ignacio.
Hello, everybody. How are you today? My name is Genoveva Garcia. I am Vice President, Association Student Government at Centennial Education Center. I am also a student at CEC. I recently applied for citizenship. I look forward to being able to vote. I want to tell you how happy in one location. Some of the classes I take include citizenship, computer, employability skills, leadership, Photoshop, pronunciation, and executive secretary administrative certificate. These courses will help me with my future goal as a USA citizen. The location at Centennial Education Center is important for me and other students. So I ask you to please vote yes for at least for far more years. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Lopez, followed by Beatriz Ignacio, followed by Gabriel Martinez.
Hello, my name is Sarai Lopez. I'm a citizen and a registered voter. I also work the polls during the elections. As a student at CSC and a public servant to the city of Santa Ana, I ask you to vote yes to extend the lease. This is important to me because it's conveniently located near for me to attend. I am currently taking classes to become a secretary. I found CSC is a community in itself. I can see how it serves many people. It would be a shame to take it away from the community. So as a voting citizen, I ask you again to please vote yes for the extension at CSC. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Beatriz, followed by Gabriel Martinez, followed by Jim Kennedy.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, my name is Beatriz Ignacio. I'm a student at CSC, and I'm taking high school subject leadership classes, and I'm also a member of student government. At CSC, I have access to many classes in one location. This makes it very convenient for me to take many classes. This enhances my life and my education. As a single mom, I have to travel to other locations to get the same education that I get at CSC. It will be too inconvenient. So for the convenience for myself and my friends at CSC, I ask you to vote yes on the lease for CSC. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel, followed by Jim Kennedy, followed by Dulce Gregorio.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gabriel Martinez. I am president of Associated Student Government at Centennial Education Center. I'm also a high school student, and I help run my family's business. I'm a busy person, but education comes first. It's very convenient for me to get all my skills I need at our location. For instance, I take all high school classes, leadership classes, computer classes, and more at CEC. CEC is a community that grows better every year. For this reason, I ask you to vote yes on renewing the lease at CEC. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, followed by Dulce, followed by Ruben Smith.
Hello, my name is Jim Kennedy. I'm the interim vice president for the School of Continuing Education for Santa Ana College, and I'd just like to thank the council for considering the 5-year lease renewal for Centennial Education Center. We feel that the adult education programs that are offered at Centennial are vitally important to the Santa Ana community. And I just want to let you know how thankful we are for the partnership that we've had in adult education over the last 33 years. And Santa Ana College has really maintained its commitment to adult education. Each year we invest $13.5 million directly into the programs that serve the students in the adult education programs here in Santa Ana. And just to give it in some perspective, we have 24,000 students that we serve as part of our adult education, and our biggest center is the Centennial Education Center. Last year we had 211 high school graduates, And if you think about it, those 211 high school graduates, they earn on average $10,000 more per year as a result of their graduation. So over 30 years, that brings in $63 million into the community. And that happens every single year as a result of our programs. And then we have 1,400 plus students that earn state-approved certificates. And so you can see the benefits of our programs in the parent that can communicate with their children's teacher, or the employee that can speak English so that they can get the promotion or maybe the job in the first place, and the student that has the skills now that they are prepared to attend college. So the great news for Santa Ana is that we have the best adult education program in the state. Last year we received 4 major awards. We received one of the awards from the California Department of Education. And so we have a model program here, and so we're very excited about the partnership that we have with the city of Santa Ana to keep this program going. And so, in conclusion, I just want to thank you very much for considering this issue and just express my support for the continued license agreement at Centennial Education Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Dulce, followed by Ruben Smith, followed by Veronica Ramirez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dulce. I'm a student at Centennial Educational Center. I'm taking high school and computer classes at this school. I don't have to go somewhere else to take my classes because Centennial offers a variety of classes all in one location. This school is very convenient for many students who live around the area, for students who want to improve upon themselves and the community. I would like you to renew the lease so students like myself can achieve our goals of getting a higher education. By renewing the lease, you give students like myself the opportunity to reach our goals and give us the opportunity to continue our education for years to come. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And now Ruben Smith, please, followed by Veronica Ramirez, followed by Madeline Spencer.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. I am Ruben Smith with the law firm of Alvarado Smith, and we represent Rancho Santiago Community College tonight. I'm also a resident of Santa Ana, so I'm proud to say. And I want to encourage you again to vote yes on the extension of the lease. It's the first step to, I think, a very exciting opportunity, which is to create more park spaces in the city. This will allow, in a joint effort with the city and the college, to get permission from Department of Interior to expand to another park, in essence, creating more park space. For over 30 years, this school has been there, and it's been a great asset to the community. We ask you to let it stay, and at the same token, we can work together to create more park space somewhere else where there's little space available. So thank you very much, and thank you for your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Veronica, followed by Madeline Spencer, followed by Zabi Alvarez.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I come to you on behalf of my parents who are Santa Ana residents. And in speaking to Mayor Pro Tem Sal Tinajero, he recommended that I speak to you on their behalf. My parents have had an ongoing issue for the last 20 or so years. 15 years ago, they were required to remove the driveway in their home and replace it with new cement. They're having to do the same thing this go around. They're actually in the process of doing this, and we've been trying to work with the city, since about 15 years ago to see if the city will take some responsibility towards the damage to my parents' home. It's now also impacted their plumbing. I have actually been working with Rick Springbird, who I don't believe is with the city any longer, and most recently with Osvaldo Reyes, who actually went to my parents' home this morning and again indicated that the damage to their home is not significant enough for the city to get involved. And I know that I probably can't hand you guys my tablet, so I have a prop. So I want to bring the seriousness of this situation. This is just one of the routes that my parents have had to remove from their driveway. And this was just a small piece. To me, this is a significant issue. They're in the process of putting stamped concrete. As some of you may be aware of, this can go up to in excess of $10,000. And so it's a significant cost to my parents who are in the process of retirement. And so I'd like to ask for the support of the city to work with my parents, myself, so that we can try to accommodate and find some sort of resolution for them. Thank you very much.
Let me just...
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
If I could refer you to our city manager. You know what? We need to give her that back. I'd like to take it, but I know it's hers. No.
You do me a favor. It's my work one.
But Ms. Ramirez, if I'm going to send that picture over to our city manager, but if you could also, if she could get your information, Mr. Cavazos, so that she can speak with someone. I think it's pretty appalling when you look at that and someone says that there is no significant damage to your house. I think you've had to replace that driveway 3 times?
This would be the 3rd time that they're having to replace it, and one of the roots is actually all the way to my parents' front door, or the window to their bedroom. I mean, it's significant.
And you can file a claim, but I'm sure our city manager will be able to talk to you, and hopefully next time you don't have to bring a piece of the tree with you. But
I hope not. It's heavy.
It's still winter time, so we could use it for some firewood or something like that. But if you could please exchange information with them, I'd really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem. Madeline Spencer, and Madeline, do you know if the following speakers that are speaking after you from Sacred, that they need translation? Zabali Alvarez?
No, Zabdi is one of our youth.
So we're good, and John Molina and all that there with a different group. Okay, please go ahead.
Good evening, council and city staff. Sacred and SABHC are encouraged to be working on the strategic planning with the city and are excited to partner with you in this year's 2014 time that you are creating a space and a reunion for the community on Saturday to discuss an overview of the 5-year strategic planning draft, where public input will be considered from 9 to noon. We are thrilled that a draft was sent out to the community early enough that the community has the opportunity to go through the plan, and we have been pleased about some of the things that we have seen in the plan. We would like to urge the city to keep looking deeply at these plans in a holistic way so that the links can be made in how each area influences, affects, and is connected to the others. For example, how, our being the youngest city in the nation, one would expect that giving care and investment to our youth will inevitably contribute to economic development for our future, and that investment in prevention is an investment in arts, culture, parks, housing, libraries, health, and restorative justice practices in our schools, Department of Youth Corrections, and youth programming. What we see is that the safety and health and economic growth, which we like to think of as equitable growth, all go together. And that when we talk about development, we include residents, youth, families, workers, as well as shoppers in the plan. Therefore, we feel it's extremely important to emphasize that our plan reflect these connections, focus on equity and prevention, and make sure that this language be included in the plan. We thank you for your consideration of these requests, and we will see you Saturday at 1532 East Chestnut Avenue in Santa Ana from 9 to noon. Thank you.
Zabi Alvarez, followed by Joan Molina. And then after that, Barbara Lemire. And after that, Patricia Ruiz.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Sabti Alvarez. I'm a 16-year-old. I'm a junior at Godinez Fundamental High School, and I'm here as part of Sacred and CHBHC. I just wanted to say that I'm very excited to be part of shaping Santa Ana's future in the next 5 years, being part of the strategic plan. I am glad to see that there is a goal on youth creation and education. And I and other youth are excited and preparing for Saturday's forum to be able to give you our feedback. But for now, we wanted to share that we want to see more policies that provide opportunities for youth, such as internships, job opportunities, and restorative justice. Internships are important because we need experiences to fill our resumes, so we could be successful Santa Ana residents with a job in the future. So as Santa Ana economically grows, that these are opportunities for youth to get jobs in their own cities. So why not include a policy that makes businesses employ a certain percent of their workers to be Santa Ana youth? If we include a restorative justice policy, we would send a different message to youth that we are here to help them, not fight against them. An example can be that if a youth gets in a fight at school, don't send them home because they don't gain anything from that. But point them to a mentoring program that helps them with their problems, because we never know what problems they're going through at home. In my opinion, in order for us to grow into healthy, mature, independent adults and into a healthy community, we need to have internships, job opportunities, and restorative justice included in the strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Now John Molina, followed by Barbara Lemire. And Barbara, if you could come on closer to the mic, and then after the Patricia Tish Leon. Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm back. Last time that we discussed, I asked everybody to evaluate their brains and do a brain check on your positions here. And that if you had a brain injury, like my husband sustained from the Parks and Recreation Department by the gross negligence of the pitching machine, where it was an air and flew into my husband's head and gave him a brain injury. I want to know, you said that you were going to follow up on the case. So I'm here to see what the follow-up was, to see if it was not just talking out the side of your neck and a bunch of hot air. I guess Guy Fawkes had a lot to say, and I just don't want to have something like this happen in my husband's case. He's serving 35 to life for something that he should not have done on an inappropriate decision, but without that brain injury, he would have never done it. Our house was raided by the police department because they were looking for stuff on the computer which was never there, because that was not his forte. His past had been a GTA. They held priors against him and enhancements. My husband, upon that arrest and the raids, they even went into my 87-year-old mother's room. They pulled out all of our drawers in our household, and the city of Santa Ana police went and haywire on our house. They even took something that was my brother's that was at the house. I cannot confirm that, unfortunately, but they did take a brown bag and they stuck it into their car. Upon my husband's arrest at the city jail, he hung himself, and actually there's a case there that something was left in the cell, and fortunately the guard that had passed by had seen him hanging on the bars. But fortunately, he had an encounter with the Lord, and the Lord says, we're not ready for you yet. And I know that a lot of you are God-fearing here, and you open up with prayer. I pray to God that you would, I'm a born-again Christian, would take God, and that you're accountable someday for your decisions. You heard on your previous cases that you had a vote of 5-1 or 6-0 on that. I pray for a unison vote here to reinstate my husband's case and to look at it with, and not to just be lacking your ethics and kick it to the curb as what was done by Rossini and Judge Fell. I'm very sad about that. So I still can't applaud you at all. I need some resolution here. My husband needs help. The help that he got was kicked to the curb and 35 to life from a brain injury sustained from the Parks and Recreation Department. So I'm waiting for your follow-up.
Thank you. Barbara Lemire, followed by Patricia Ruiz, followed by Tish Leon.
Good evening. Still a 48-and-a-half-year resident and still concerned about Centennial Park. Belongs to the citizens of Santa Ana, all 330,000 of us. 4.5 years since the 30-year lease, and you still haven't come to a resolution. You're adding on 5 more years. We're not taking a school away. We're asking for responsibility. There's other places, lots of places for schools. There's no place for parkland. We cannot reclaim what we're going to lose. No resolution. When are we going to get there? And if everything wasn't in closed session on your part and the college's part, we'd know what was going on. Something doesn't click here at all. It just keeps going on and on. How many years do we need for something so simple? The parking is impossible Monday through Saturday, folks. Some of you said, I'm going to go look. I don't know if anybody took time to go look. Looks like a mini mall at Christmas time over there. Neighbors have come and said at our meetings, we can't go over there and park. Not everybody's going to walk. The school, they tell me, well, they need one where the neighbors can walk. Well, they're not walking there for the most part. They're not riding bikes. They're not using the bus. They're driving their automobiles. And thank God they can afford an automobile. But this is a park. It was given to us as a park, the citizens of Santa Ana. And 7 of you are going to sit there and make this decision for 330,000 people. That's a big responsibility. And I'm very upset that a lobbyist came here, spoke with you. That's a cheap shot. That should be for Sacramento. That's political asylum if you go against these type of things. And that's dirty poo. I'm sorry, I'm just being simple. It's dirty. There's better ways. All of you. Political is important to you. Are you?
Barbara, yeah, if you can be specific as to what you're talking about.
I was told the lobbyist visited you from the college. They hired a lobbyist just like they have their lawyer here.
Not, in my case, not true.
Someone misinformed you.
Anybody else?
Not me.
Not true. That's why I asked you, because I didn't know what you were talking about.
Are you all saying no?
I'm saying no.
The representative. I mean, I'm a lawyer, but I didn't do them out.
And look, this is not a trial or a question answer.
No.
I just wanted you to be specific as to what you were saying, because I wasn't clear.
Right.
All right.
Okay, so tonight is your decision to extend for 5 more years the unknown. When this belongs to the people, we need the open space. We can't get that kind of open space. And that is a beautiful area of the park for us to enjoy. We've got schools in there, we've got ex-fire training facilities and everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Ruiz, followed by Tish Leon.
Good evening. I am here also. I know that you're will be voting or making a decision regarding the 5-year lease extension for the college. I have attended Santa Ana College in the past, and it's a great school, and I have no doubt of that. I think the issue here is the lease extension. I think that there's, as other residents have told you, this is a park area. We would like to maintain it, a park area. We don't have any more room in Centennial to grow and keep our park area. So it's not, I believe, and in my opinion, it's not a question of closing down, it's a question of relocating. And I think that could be achieved. And I hope that the council will consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tish, followed by Erlinda Salcedo, followed by Priscilla Vargas.
Thank you and good evening. I'm here to talk about the missing women that I came before you, I think it was last month. They're still missing. The mothers are very upset that they feel that a lot has not been done for them. Chief Rojas and the PD officers, investigators have been very helpful. They have been meeting with us and they're always open to meet with us. And I feel that they're doing everything, but this isn't about me. This is about the moms and the women that are missing. I do want to also invite you all, and hopefully you will be able to come to our candlelight vigil that we'll be having this coming Friday. It's going to be at the corner of the DMV on 1st and Grand. And this is mainly just to bring awareness to the women that are missing, and not necessarily just these 3, but women all over Orange County. I'm sure there's quite a few that are missing as well. So please try and attend, and I know that Erlinda will need help with translation. Thank you.
Thank you, Erlinda, followed by Priscilla, followed by Teresa Clark.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Erlinda Salcedo.
Soy una de las mamás de las 3 muchachas que están desaparecidas. Mi hija tiene ya 3 meses desaparecida. La policía no me dice nada, solamente que están trabajando, pero en sí no es así como empezó, así estamos ahorita. Yo vengo a pedirles ayuda a ustedes, a ver si alguien de ustedes me puede ayudar a darle presión a la policía para que me ayude a encontrar a mi hija. Y no nomás por ella, sino por todas las muchachas que andan en la calle, por la comunidad. Ahorita es mi hija, son otras 2 más. Al rato, ¿cuántas muchachas no se van a desaparecer? Entonces, yo por eso vengo a pedirles ayuda y a lo mismo a invitarlos este próximo viernes 7 a la vigilia que va a haber, los que puedan asistir. Muchas gracias. Es todo. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Mr. Mayor, before the
Please.
translation, if you don't mind, señora, ¿por qué no, gracias por sus palabras, pero por qué no antes de que se vaya, si puede hablar con nuestro jefe de policía, Rojas, acerca de este asunto? Yo sé que él está muy disponible de darle detalles a cualquiera de lo que está sucediendo, la investigación que tienen, y yo sé que él va a estar más que disponible para usted para darle cualquier aviso de lo que están haciendo ellos, para que usted esté cerciorada de lo que está pasando con la investigación.
Sí, nosotros ya estamos hablando con él, ya tuvimos una junta con él, pero en sí también me dice lo mismo, están investigando. Los investigadores me hablan una vez por semana, pero para lo mismo, nomás para decirme, ¿sabe usted algo, señora? No, pues yo no sé nada y ustedes tampoco. Es lo único que me dicen cada semana. Un día por semana me llaman, pero es lo mismo.
Pues mire,
No estoy recibiendo
lo más
ninguna
importante es que se comuniquen y sigan esa comunicación, porque lo que queremos es que él siga hablando con usted y usted con él. Sí, porque es importante. Gracias.
Ok, muchas gracias.
My name is Elena Salcedo. I'm one of the mom of one of the 3 girls that are missing, and I'm here to ask for your help. The police says that they're working on the case, but we don't hear anything new. They're going back and forth. We're here to ask for your help to maybe put some pressure on the police department to help us find my daughter. And it's not just about my daughter; it's about all the other girls that are there now. They're missing now, and some that might be missing in the future. Who knows? So please, I'm here to ask for your help and also to invite you to the vigil on Friday the 7th, if you can come. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Priscilla Vargas, followed by Teresa Clark.
Thank you for having me. My name is Priscilla Vargas, and I'm the mother of Monique Vargas. She went missing on October 23rd. And I don't think the Santa Ana Police Department are doing their job. I do a lot of footwork. I'm up and down the streets looking for her. When I find clues, I call the detectives, and we went over there and investigated. And I don't think they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, because they already labeled them as that they have drug problems or whatever. They're still human. They still breathe the same air me and you breathe. I had her at the age of 21 years old. She was my best friend. She was my firstborn, and I want to know where my daughter's at. I've never asked for Santa Ana PD for nothing. This is the first time I've ever come to them to ask them for help, and I feel they're not doing their job. The detectives have promised that they would call us every week to let us know what's going on, and it's always the same thing. We're still investigating. When we stop Santa Ana, I've stopped a few officers out in the street and asked him, is my daughter on the missing persons? It takes them 10, 15 minutes for her picture to even come out. When the detective told us that, every morning when they have the group session, that they talk about the missing girls, and I don't think they're doing enough. And I thank you for hearing me and for having me here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Clark, followed by Rosa Maria.
Hello, my name is Teresa Clark, and I'm here for the same reason that the previous 4. I want to bring to your attention the 14th Amendment of our Constitution, which states that we are all equal under the law. And it's great to be an American, and it's great to know that our tax dollars are, part of our tax dollars go to having a police force set in place for, to protect and serve us. But it's been I'm from a law enforcement family. My father was a homicide detective for LAPD for 35 years. For 8 years in Detroit, I have a lieutenant on the Tustin PD. I grew up with this, and I never thought I'd have firsthand experience with it, but through my friend I have, and I'm really painfully aware that what should be being done is not being done. And I think it behooves all of us to make sure that this doesn't happen, that these girls, regardless of what their character is deemed to be, or that should have no bearing on the police doing their job. We're all equal under the law. And what if one of our children were in this situation? I don't think that that character should decide whether someone is worthy of all our resources or not. I think every child of every mother they should find out what happened to them. And it certainly behooves us so that it won't happen to one of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. May I please have Rosa Maria, followed by Matt Southgate?
Good evening and hello, my friends. My name is Rosa Maria. I am here on behalf of my school, which is Centennial Education Center. As many of you know, I am taking English, math, and leadership classes to improve my skills. I am grateful to have any location for me and my fellow students to learn, and a second opportunity is very important for all students. It will help me to be a better civic leader in Santana. As a voter, register for me for the benefit of my community. I beg every one of you to vote yes to renew the list. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Matt Southgate.
Good evening, council people. I actually wanted to come up here and just take an opportunity to thank Council Member David Benavides. As you know, I like to send out a lot of emails to people in the Artist Village community and some of the council members, politicians, try to link up as many people as I can at different random moments. I just recently threw out an email chain where I included David on there, and I sent it to a bunch of the artist galleries downtown and some of the landlords downtown, including a very deep-pocketed new landlord that owns the Santora building. I've been recently evicted, as a lot of you know, and I wanted to thank David for sharing with a lot of the people in town that he had plenty of experiences visiting my gallery, and that he respected my gallery just as much as Grand Central Art Institution in the village, as well as some of the other galleries. He made it clear that a small independent salon-style gallery was just as inspiring to the community as a big university institution like Grand Central. And my landlord heard that a little after, maybe too late, but that wasn't David's fault. I might have another 30 seconds or so. I also just want to say, David, a lot of people in our community are feeling that maybe we were a little too judgmental about New Song Church wanting by the Santora. Some of us think that might not have been the worst case scenario.
Good job.
I've always been an atheist, secular humanist, but the way things look now, I think, a little more Christian love, Christian respect would have helped our downtown community. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, let me bring it back to council. Let's direct our attention to the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, I will abstain on item 25B, and the reason is the fine law firm of Alvarado Smith. I'm very close to them, and out of an abundance of caution, I choose not to participate on that item.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull that item as well.
And it's going to be pulled, so when it's pulled, I'll simply not participate. Any other items that council members wish to pull? Councilor Martinez?
Well, I wanted to be last because I may just pull everything. I would like to pull 25A. 25A is already pulled. 25C.
Okay. Tell me what you don't want to pull.
25A, 25F.
I'm kidding. 25G. 25F.
And 25I and 25J.
25.
So, repeat that for you?
No, I think we got it. It's most of it. Anything that she didn't pull?
I think she covered, yeah.
All right.
Next time, start over there. I want to be nice.
You saved us a lot of time. Well, not necessarily. We may not have pulled that many items. Does anybody want to? Let me entertain a motion on the balance of the consent.
Make a motion to approve the balance.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. So let's go on. I believe would it be 25A? Go ahead, Councilor Martinez.
The reason why I'm pulling 25A is just as we're moving forward with, education, safety, and awareness in regards to pedestrians and bicyclists, just to confirm and reaffirm our commitment that the City of Santa Ana provides the crossing guards within the Santa Ana Unified School District. A lot of folks sometimes don't realize that, even though this money is coming out of the police budget, we do have a third party that deals with our contractors, but at the same time, this city council is making a commitment to provide these funds to have these crossing guards within our schools. And again, our crossing guards are to assure that our children are able to cross the street in a very safe manner. And as we go out there from an enforcement perspective with our police department, and I know we have a lot of great programs that will be that have already started, and possibly new ones, and then as well as our public works department as they partner up to assure that safety is very important. We recently just received a report from our police department at our public safety committee, and I'll go ahead and let Councilman Benavides address that since he is the chair. But I just wanted to pull this item because it is extensive. It's $850,000. That's almost $1 million that this city is committing to the safety of our children in the school district. And a lot of times people don't realize that typically we only support joint use agreements. We go beyond that. And every year I do pull this because it's very important with the partnership that we have with the school district and the continued partnership we will have in regards to crossing guard services. So with that, I wholeheartedly support this item.
Second.
Those in favor, please.
Comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I did want to echo some of what Councilwoman Martinez mentioned. We did hear that the item of pedestrian safety was presented to the Public Safety Committee, myself, Councilwoman Martinez, Councilman Reyna, last week. And there was, some of us have been aware that over the last year there has been a spike in pedestrian accidents and some fatalities within the city. And so our traffic division has been very proactive in doing different measures of enforcement, of education. But Councilwoman Martinez did have a good point and made a recommendation at the Public Safety Committee meeting, is that we do have crossing guards that are out there that are already tasked with helping to make that crossing experience safer. So what I would like to add, potentially a minor friendly amendment maybe or recommendation to this item, is we're looking at a 1-year agreement with the vendor who does provide this service for a decent amount of funds there in this contract. Is that within the next 30 days, I believe the contract starts first part of next month, is that they come up with a simple plan with our traffic division to help us in a 1-year education, pedestrian education program. I think that right now what they mainly do is provide that, walking the kids and any pedestrian across the street. But some of the recommendation was using signs, making it a point so that the crossing guards take an additional step, whether it be providing leaflets or having a sign out there, making just more visibility and more just for both the pedestrians and the drivers. Just this, again, sense of
All
awareness.
right, that friendly amendment's accepted.
Certainly, yes.
It's accepted.
One question that the follow-up question is with regard to cost. If this question for Chief Rojas, currently, what I gather here is that the full cost is coming out of the city, specifically the police department, even more specifically traffic division. The bulk of the pedestrians that are being helped and basically to have a safer environment for crossing our children going to and from school. Is the school district at all a partner in funding these efforts?
No, they are not, and you are correct. The whole bulk of the contract and the focus of the agreement is to make sure that the children have safe passage to school and get there safely. And that's one of the reasons that we requested the one-year extension, because we are evaluating all the different intersections, and we want to make sure that we're following best practices and that we're being consistent with what you have all set forward in the strategic plan.
Perfect. So with that, and I'm glad that there is an assessment taking place. Sometimes we place a crossing guard somewhere and time goes by and that's just where they've been for years.
Correct.
But if we can go back, evaluate where some of these incidences of vehicle pedestrian accidents and fatalities have taken place, make sure that they're in the right places, the most effective place. And then also, I think it does make sense for us to start exploring conversations with the superintendent, the school district, to see where there might be a partnership and shared cost that might make sense. Maybe we'll be able to allow us to even coming together, maybe enhance what's out there, what we're being able to provide as far as safety for pedestrians. Thank you.
Is there a follow-up?
Yes, please.
In a partnership with the school district, do they offer any additional type of support, any in-kind other than financial?
No, they do not. We do provide, we have the Officer Reggie program, which I know you guys are familiar with, and we provide that education piece along with traffic engineering. But we are planning, I met with William Galvez, Public Works Director, this morning, and we are looking at setting up a meeting to see if we can get more of a partnership in terms of the education component. So we're hopeful.
Thank you.
All right, with that, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. On 25B, I'll turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who came and spoke on both sides of the issue. At the end of the day, I think that everyone is shaped by their own individual paradigm and shaped by the experiences that they have and you know, how they grow up and who influences you. One thing that I look at as a city council member is I look at citizens who are concerned about issues, also citizens who let us know and are critical of the city, but also praise the city when the city does good things. When I have citizens who never praise the city, I always get concerned about the comments that come in because they tend to be hyperbolized, and many times they speak for a very, very, very small group of people, yet other individuals who are usually disenfranchised, especially some of the Spanish speakers in that neighborhood over by Centennial Park, who have told me flat out at their school functions, at their school parent meetings, that this is a college that they frequent quite often in Centennial Park. And so I just want to make sure that as I've spoken to people across that area and that neighborhood, I grew up in that neighborhood right down the street over by Stater Brothers. My mother graduated from Centennial, immigrated to the United States, was a legal resident for 15 years, became a citizen, received her high school diploma at that particular site. So there's history. That's my paradigm. So I've yet to go to Centennial Park where someone says, wow, the park is too crowded, I can't move because Centennial Park students are overcrowding the park, I can't throw my Frisbee. I've yet to go to Centennial Park where someone says I can't have a picnic under a tree because there's too many students at Centennial Park. The fact of the matter is there's another park right across the street. That area of Santa Ana has two major parks that are located in that vicinity. What a wonderful thing to have an educational center there as well. There are ideas that we talked about at the Park and Rec Commission, and that is there are segments of Centennial Park that are also zoned for educational purposes that we can take a look at. This extension is only for us to continue to look at those options. Now, there have been extensions before. What makes this one different? What makes this one different is that now for the first time in a very, very long time, the Santa Ana College actually has money to do something. In the past, they haven't had any funds, but now you do, thanks to the taxpayers of Santa Ana, who, by passing the bond measure that they passed, gave you a thumbs up and a vote of approval. What I noticed in the speakers that came before us today is they were young, they were older, they had, some had limited English, some learned English at your institution. That has to be valued. There's a time where we say, are there issues? Absolutely. Is a parking one of them? Absolutely. This is the time to resolve that. There's a parking structure there that we can also take a look at, and I think that the school district should be a partner in this. This would be a partnership between the college, the city, and the school district. But I'm not going to let a group of people who are constantly negative mess up an opportunity that we could have for this community. I sat at the school district when we were building Godinez. We were voting to build Godinez. And some of the same people that I've heard criticize the college, criticize the school district. That place over there was a pile of dirt for many years. I used to play over there. And that's all there was, just dirt. Today, you have beautiful baseball fields. You have a facility that our community can also utilize. Why can't we go forward and put the little bickering things aside and be adults and professionals and find a win-win for our community? Whether we build an educational center there that's permanent and create another portion of a park somewhere else where it's very much needed, or we decide to use the educational portion of the park and zone, and it's already zoned for education, and use that and free up that other land area. In other words, this 5-year extension is an extension to create solvency, to put our thinking caps together and move forward. And I'm going to tell you this right now. You have to keep your eye on the ball. You got to keep moving. Don't listen to the static. Move forward because our community depends on it. I will be supporting that item. Councilmember Sarmiento.
I think Councilmember Benavides had a comment as well, but let me go ahead. I'll try to be brief. Councilmember Gerardo, can you join us at the podium? I just had a quick couple questions to ask. How are the conversations going with the National Park Services regarding the land swap, for lack of a better term?
They provided us with a letter in writing saying that we can proceed with giving a 5-year extension in order to have time to resolve this issue, the deed restriction issue. And that's why you have this 5-year extension before you today.
What was the original extension requested by the community college district? It wasn't for the original 5, I think, or for what we had before, so it was for a much longer period of time, correct?
They requested a long-term lease so that the campus can stay there and they can then feel at ease to invest and build classroom building.
Right. So do we know if there's any construction or any improvements, any TI going on at the structure in this 5-year period? Anything
There's no
anticipated at this
construction.
point?
I mean, I'm sure there's just normal repair work being done as it is everywhere, but there's no construction going.
So there's no expansion of the footprint of the building or anything else?
Correct.
They're not going to go. They're not going to build a second story or a third story on top of that?
No, they don't have permission to do so until the city decides.
Okay. And the idea was, I think, when the city and the school district embarked on these conversations, were for there to be some land that the community college district would assist us in acquiring, so we could use some land off-site for park space, correct? And I think what we had identified was the 1.6 or whatever the dimension is of the open space area near the bike trail on McFadden and Orange. So that was the idea, and I think what everybody was saying, and I understand some of the speakers saying, look, there might be a loss of that space to the Centennial grounds, but that doesn't mean that that space is lost. And if anything, the conversations were to acquire the space someplace else, because
that's the land exchange concept.
Right.
And the National Park Services did accept what you call the McFadden Orange That's not quite 1.6, but close. But it isn't enough. So they say you still need to add to the exchange in order to get National Park Services to consider releasing the 2.6 acres from the recreational deed restriction.
And that's what I want you to walk us through. Who needs to add what? What is
the
it?
college needs to add additional recreational value to the current land exchange proposal submitted to the National Park Services, which was the McFadden Orange property, in exchange of the 2.6 campus at Centennial. It was accepted, but it wasn't enough. So more needs to be added to the land exchange.
Does that mean maybe another acre off-site someplace else?
It could be. It requires a professional appraisal that is approved by the National Park Services because it's recreational value appraised.
That's where I was going. In other words, this extension, albeit much shorter than what was requested by us, by the Community
Correct.
College District, is some time to work on these things.
To work, yes, on these options.
And
Correct.
I hope that we can, because the benefit would be that we could have two potential sites of open space.
Correct.
In parts of the city where we have none.
Mhm.
So that's the benefit. And we understand that there's going to be some loss of space that we've been dealing with for years now because of the presence of the community college at Centennial. But we're trying to now see what we can do to maybe get other park space as a result of that relationship we have with the
That's
community
absolutely
college
right.
district. So,
Correct.
and I'm sensitive to the arguments that were made today about parking. There's got to be a way we can mitigate that. There has
Yes.
to be a way that we can try to figure out how students who come for a period of time, they're not going to stay there forever. They come to their courses, they come to do whatever they need to, come to their lectures, and then leave. So if there's something that we can do to maybe do some sort of parking plan, because I
Sure.
know we have a multi-level structure on the
Correct.
back side of the park.
That's right.
Which is, I think, on the southwest area.
Yes.
To the extent we can maybe think about shuttling, maybe having the college do something like that, we can be creative. The great thing is that we do have a structure that can house vehicles.
That's right.
And if we didn't, then I'd say we're in a huge problem because we don't have the capacity. We do have the capacity. It's just not configured well right now. So to the extent you can continue speaking with the chancellor and the president over at the college, I think it's something that we can work with. But I do hear the problem about the parking, and we certainly want to have our residents be able to use the park and park at the park when they drive their vehicles there. And I think it's a resolvable problem. It's not something that we can't mitigate or we can't address. So let's try to figure that one out. But I think we're all trying to be reasonable here. I don't think anybody's trying to be unreasonable. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Sarmiento. Councilmember Benavides.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I will have a couple of questions, Mr. Moet. I do want to thank members of the public who came to speak. It's good to hear from some of the students who have been benefiting from the services provided there at Centennial Education Center. Senora Pisano, it's always a pleasure to see you, very active in our community for many, many years. It was impressive to see here as well that I believe 20,000 students come through the adult education program. Imagine a bulk of those, if not all, from there at the Centennial Education Center. The city of Santa Ana, I think this the council, previous councils in the city, has always had a commitment to education. Over the years, one of the references that Councilman Tinajero mentions, the Godinez site, specifically with Rancho Santiago Community College District, we have, as a council, the majority, if not all of us, supported publicly bond measures calling on our residents, our citizens, to contribute, to put money out of pocket to support the work of the college district and Santa Ana College specifically. We've taken steps to vacate land, College Avenue over next to the west of, well, now it's included within the campus of Santa Ana College, but we gave away public right-of-way there to the district a number of years ago. We've also gifted land along Bristol, some prime land to build a digital media center as well. Going back about 35 years, there was a lease that was provided to allow for this education center to be housed at that
the site there at Centennial. But it was a lease, one that I don't think we repurposed that area. It still was a park. It still intended to be a park, and I think that that's still what we need in the city. We have had numerous conversations over the years on how we're a park poor city. Is that not correct, Mr. Moet?
That's correct.
Okay. If this was a college district board or a elementary school district, high school district board, then it definitely makes sense for it to be a prime priority for the board to be focused on providing education. We're a council, city council, and our priority, what we're charged with and elected to do, is to provide needs of the city, and those that has to do with safety, streets, supporting economic development, and providing good quality parks and expanding or at least preserving when we're able to. When it comes to this lease agreement, and this is not an easy item for us to consider. I don't think sometimes might be presented as sort of black and white, and if we don't support something like this, then we're anti-education. I think it's nothing like that, but I think we do have a fiduciary responsibility to look at our primary role as council members and as a city. When it comes to this agreement, it would be 5 years. What type of payment would the city be receiving from the college district for these? Typically, there's a lease.
The payment that we currently receive will continue. I don't want to say the wrong figure. Ron, do you know off the top of your head? It is a figure that was part of the 30-year agreement and received upgrades and because of increases. So that continues. We will continue getting it's a percentage of the maintenance of the entire park. And I'm sorry, but I don't, is it 7? I don't know. It's 7% of the maintenance of the entire park.
Okay, so we don't know what that figure is though, in dollar sum?
No, but we can follow up, but it is 7% of the total expended for the maintenance of the park.
Does that include repaving of roads and of the parking lot?
No, the repavement of roads or the redoing a picnic shelter and all that, that's a capital improvement. We're talking about just general ongoing maintenance.
So just to mow the lawns and rake leaves and that type of thing?
Correct.
Is what okay. Mm-hmm. But the heavy impact though comes from the 20,000 visitors coming into the parks, but that we absorb, the city absorbs that cost. And
we recently did the Centennial Ring Road, right? Yeah. And there was funding source. I'm not recall, this was a few years ago, 3 years ago, that we did. The parking surface has not been done, because it's probably going to be a subject of conversation during these talks.
Okay. Well, it's just some of those things that we definitely, I think, need to be thinking about and putting some very intentional focus on if this item does proceed. I know that the college district recognizes that there is a fair amount, that parking is prime. It's a prime commodity. I know they charge their students when they're going to park on their campuses.
That's news to me.
No,
I don't believe students are charged.
I know we have individuals here.
I don't believe students are charged?
No, and on their campuses, on their sites.
On their campus,
yes.
But not on the park.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, they recognize that maintenance for parking and lot is a prime commodity, and there's fees for those students. Yes. But yet, the city here is absorbing that fee and the cost to maintain the parking area there. The Board of Rec and Park, which is the advisory appointed board by the council, I believe they took up this item. What was their recommendation when it came to?
It was a difficult discussion. It wasn't. It was more of a hear and listen. There was no action taken by the Board of Recreation and Parks.
There was a letter that I believe we received from the chairman of the board with regard to this. I remember hearing.
Was it from the board? Because I don't recall it was being from the board. Maybe it was an individual member.
It may have been, but I from a number of the board members
if
that I did.
If there was an individual, I'm not privy to it, but okay. I don't. I mean, I staff the board, so
nothing.
I'm sorry.
There was nothing from the board.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll definitely go back and check because I do believe that there was some correspondence. there was nothing with regard to the lease. It wasn't with regard to the lease. It was with regard to a consideration of a permanent facility there. That discussion that we are having around that item. So with regard to this item, I do agree with I believe as Councilman Sarmiento is mentioning that if we consider this lease, that it allows for, there is a bigger question here as to whether the city will approve a long-term construction of a campus or building there, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're pursuing ultimately? Is that correct?
Yes, and in order to proceed with the construction, they must have a long-term lease.
Right.
So the city would consider approval or not approval of a long-term lease. Before that, National Park Services needs to agree. The 5 years is to give an opportunity to discuss options, and then National Park Services to agree or not agree to lift the deed restrictions.
Okay. When it comes to this right now, what we have before us is potentially a 5-year lease. If we do not approve this, their lease comes due November 14th, if I remember correctly. Right. That's just within a few months.
That's
I think it'd be very challenging to charge a school and relocating within a few months' time. I don't know if that would be very reasonable per se, but I think what is reasonable is to charge them with looking at other options. There is significant impact that the park does get from having that many visitors coming for education purposes. Nothing against education. I mean, it's again something that's vital and important. But is that the best location? I'm not sure. And if the city and its residents and the park is receiving impact, there definitely it makes sense that there be fairness and some type of just compensation to be able to make up for that type of impact. I know years back, before my time, that park, there was a lot more that was taking place at that park. Some of you might recall, I understand there were that the lake was more active. There may have been paddle boats, there may have been boats, more of a recreation use there. Funds have gone away. We haven't been able, as a city, to sustain that, so it hasn't continued. Now, if we have a significant impact, there's somebody who's benefiting. The school district, in this case, is benefiting from us allowing for 2.6 acres of space to be used for something other than park. I think it would make sense for us to pursue and look at ways that we can improve the park, not just provide for the simple lawn maintenance, but actually have some capital improvements that would be long-term at that park as well. So with regard to this item, one of my concerns is if it goes forward, that we renewed this 5 years ago. We gave them a 5-year lease extension 5 years ago. My concern is that we do that today and that they come back or wait to the last hour to potentially, for one reason or another, when time's due, where then we'd be again hard pressed to either extend or we would be compelled to just give the long-term lease and to allow them to build without actually having consideration to some of these other impacts and how we're going to create fairness here. So I'm going to go ahead and move the item with the caveat that we get updates every, at a minimum, 6 months, and within 18 months' time, there's some type of long-term plan, and whether it be a relocation or some type of significant compensation to the city to be able to make up for all of the impacts that we are receiving. I'm not sure where I'll be necessarily at that point, whether I'll be supportive of a long-term.
Are you making an amendment to our?
So yeah, I'm because there isn't a motion. Is there a motion on the table?
Okay.
There's not. Well, there is no motion at this point.
No, there isn't. So I'm making the motion with that caveat that there.
Can you repeat what your
so
amendment
make the
would
motion
be?
that's on the table with the condition that every 6 months we get some type of update on the long-term, the permanent direction that we're going to take with regard to that park, or that the district is going to take.
So
with
an
the
update
goal
on what they
on this, because this is just a temporary, this is just a Band-Aid.
Correct. Well, this is giving them time to come up with solutions.
Right, and so, but again, this would be.
So you
time
want a
certain.
semi-annual report on
With-
what the status is? Is that what it is?
Correct,
Okay.
with the goal that within 18 months, there is a plan.
A plan.
Rather than waiting for 5 years.
Council member, can I just work with you on the language on that? I think we're both saying the same thing. Is there a way, Gerardo, and I see counsel for the college here, is there a way that we can word Councilmember Benavidez's motion to say, look, there are some impacts, and everybody realize that there's impacts to the roads within the park because of the usage, and there's also some impact with respect to the parking and how we mitigate it. Can we say that that's going to be absorbed as a term of this extension? And I'm not sure, maybe our city attorney can help us with that.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, those are not the big improvements that we had anticipated, but those are the minor things, and I think that's relevant to the community that is being affected. And so, these are sort of nominal costs, but those are things that, again, we are absorbing as a city. But I'm sure that the district wants to do its share to be good parties to this agreement. And could that be done?
Mayor, members of the City Council, I understand the motion. 6 months status reports with the goal of an 18-month agreement that takes into consideration all the things that you described, and that would be our goal.
I think there's still.
Well,
Councilwoman.
No, I was going to support it. I believe that the 5-year extension will give both the city and the college the time to explore all our options. So I know that you had some concerns and you wanted to add that, and I'm okay with that. But I will be moving this item forward.
Councilmember Reyna.
Great. First, let me just start off by saying I definitely support education. Most of you know I work with young people, and I constantly encourage them to seek out higher education, whether it's locally at the community college level or at the university level. At the same time, the opposite side of that coin in this particular situation is recreational. And it needs to be a delicate balance of our young people and an open space. And obesity dramatically affects our community, not only young people, but older people as well. When our young people don't have a place to exercise and run, they get a little bit overweight. That translates into bullying at home, at school, which translates into mental health issues. It's a ripple effect that is profound. And in saying so, I think that we need to figure out ways so that our entities can work together. And I wasn't here prior to the first extension. At this extension, I think I will be moving and supporting it. I definitely hope they don't come back in another 5 years, because I won't support it. But as we move forward, there's a couple of things I want the residents to be aware of. One of the things you heard today was a land swap. And it sounds great. What it sounds to me is that you have a piece of land, I have a piece of land, and we're going to switch. In this situation that we're talking about, that's not the case. The land that we are talking about already belongs to us. The property on Maple, is that correct?
Correct.
That property already belongs to us. So when I hear land swap, I get the perception that there's two pieces of land that are actually going to switch. And again, that is not the case. I am all for opening up open space in different parts of the community that don't have access to it. That's part of the reason I'm going to support the 5 years. Let's explore what else is out there. But if it's not equitable, we can't afford to give away the city. We cannot afford to give away our open space. When I was growing up, there was a humongous park on First Street. Today, it's the city yard. We'll never get it back. We'll never get it back. We talk about the structure, the parking structure. Well, the college uses it. The school district uses it. The schools, when they have after-school programs or plays or sports, they use it. And the PD training uses it. So the parking structure is being utilized. How much more can we impact it? I don't know. But those are the discussions that we need to have if we're going to move forward in these types of issues. I know that in the year that I've been on the council, it was brought up to us about this challenge. I know this is great. Let's figure out a way we can move forward collectively. I do, again, support education. Let's figure out a way to make this work. But again, it has to be equitable. We can't afford to just give away the city. And in a year, I've heard one additional option or proposal in a year. And the only proposal I heard was at the PRAC meeting that we had was potentially put in the back of Centennial. Whether I agree with that or do not agree with that, that is the only additional option I've heard within a year. So I definitely appreciate my colleague in putting benchmarks within there so that we can find out where exactly we're at. If it makes sense, great, let's move forward. If it doesn't make sense, then we need to realize that and then move in a different direction. So as we go forward, again, I will be supporting this right now. Staff, keep in mind that any land swap that we want to call it, it has to be equitable. It's not just putting out there a horseshoe pit and saying that's recreation. It's not. Well, I guess to a degree it is, but physical recreation where people are actually running around. So that has to definitely be part of the equation. The financial impact in there definitely has to be equitable as well. 2.6 acres, man, that's prime property. I'm assuming it's going to go for a couple of million if we were to sell it. And in that case, how much recreational support are we going to get? I think that's it. But thank you very much.
Councilmember Sarmiento has a comment before we, Councilwoman Martinez. You were very quiet over there, Ms. Martinez. That's why I wasn't sure.
Waiting for the last word, but looks like Councilman Sarmiento is going to give the last word. You know, this issue is very sensitive to me. I think many years ago I've brought this issue up to our city attorney when we were, with our Parks and Rec director, and now with our new city manager. Look, I concur with all my colleagues' comments up here, but this is what we're doing here today is a policy decision currently now that is temporary to help support the Centennial Education Center. But as we move forward with our strategic plan, and I'm going to be asking my colleagues as we move forward the 5-year strategic plan and then eventually our 20-year visioning plan as we update our general plan, we need to be very intelligent in how we allocate our resources, and what do we, as we say that we are supportive of education, is not only for youth, but it's also for adults as well. And what does that mean? We need to define what that means. We need to define what open space means and the partnerships within our park system. We need to do that because we are not able to move forward with future policies or projects or more open space without us defining that. And I think this is why we find ourselves here. And so I want to encourage us to think that way as we move forward, because we need to understand what our return of investment is going to be, whether we keep the education center at the park, or we decide to move it, or in 18 months we figure out a plan and they go elsewhere, and then what the money that they're currently giving us to study the park on Maple, the Pacific Electric Park, we have to look at what's the equal value. I personally believe that anything that we do in the future, that we're going to have to ask for more, because park space is limited here in this community. But we also have to make a commitment and do an assessment, and I would like to ask our Parks and Rec director, and he probably already has it, but to do an assessment, because we haven't done one in a long time, because we have increased a lot of open space within our bike trails, within other areas, particularly in District 2. We were very park poor. Now we have increased the park space in District 2, and so to doing an assessment of where we're at from a percentage of how many parks are in certain areas and where are we are park poor, that we want to increase the opportunities in those areas. And so I want us to look at all those things in the future. But again, think about, as we move forward with our strategic plan and the visioning of the city, what is it that we want for the future? And I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a policy decision that the city council has to make. And again, I think at this point in time, it's very important to be supportive of education and Rancho Santiago Community College District. They have been a partner. The residents, live near there. They're getting educated. It's helping them with upward mobility. That's enhancing our economic development opportunities. And so we need to assure that we're able to make these connections, because if we decide to say at the end of the day, 18 months from now, community college, we don't want you in our parks, you're going to have to figure somewhere else to go. What does that do to the students, right? What does that do to the city? From a perspective of us wanting to be supportive of education, and in the future, where do those residents go? And so I think we need to be very cautious and very sensitive to that, but at the same time realizing that we may need to have a plan to assure that both parties at the end of the day are able to get what they need. So with that being said, I'm supportive.
Thank you, Councilwoman Martinez. Councilmember Sarmiento.
Well, we're going to try to be brief because I see the mayor pacing back and forth like a madman back there. So,
He's on the phone.
yeah, one of the things just for clarity purposes, look, we use terms of art all the time up here. So a land swap, land exchange, whatever we want to call it, it doesn't mean we're giving away our own land. That's a very simplistic way of looking at it. Can you explain to us what the National Park Service, working with both parties, the city and the college, what would that be doing for the 1.6 acres and possibly additional acreage? It's not property that we own that we're giving to ourselves. It's actually money that would be subsidized by the college for acquisition of these properties, right? So there'd be some compensation for the city for
it
these
really
grounds.
revolves on the federal government's restriction on how you use the park at Centennial. I mean, the land at Centennial. Most of the land at Centennial is restricted for recreation purposes. Those are deed restrictions. The 2.6 acres that the college campus is on is in that recreation deed restricted land. So the National Park Services would have to approve a long-term lease because their responsibility is to make sure that the land is used for recreation purposes. A portion of the park where the old fire training facility that's 5.6 acres. That's restricted by the federal government for educational purposes. That's what Mayor Pro Tem made reference to. So in order to allow the college to stay on the 2.6, the city, the community needs to identify new recreational space that would account for the loss of the 2.6 for recreation. It's not that the land is going to be lost, it's just the use, the deed restriction. And that's what the land exchange concept is all about. It could also entail the college buying land, new land from private party. It can entail that, but really the exchange concept, it revolves around the deed restriction obligation.
And that's the point I wanted you to make, just for everybody's understanding, because it sounded like we were giving away our own land and then saying this is the exchange. That's not it. Uses are involved, compensation is possibly involved, and possibly the identification of new
And we
land.
have gotten reimbursement already for some of the work we've done for the Pacific.
I remember. Now, just as a final point, one of the things that I wanted us to remember is that, and the great thing about having a new staff is that we believe in the work that they do. The downside is that we don't have much institutional memory. We had folks here who were with the city 20 plus years and could identify all the school district sites that this city gave to the school district to build schools on. No compensation at all received by us because we realized that there was a public benefit. And that public benefit was not just to students, it was to the entire community and the entire city. So if we do believe, as we always have, I think, up here, that education is a fundamental part, not just of the school districts, but of the city as well, because we serve the same constituency. So that was a priority for us then. I think we shouldn't distinguish between a school district that's K through 12 and not include our community college or AA students as well, because especially now, those are the folks that are hurting a lot. Those folks that have to be retrained and go into different careers because of the impact that they've had economically. So I think this is a moment that we can make a statement that we're supportive of that educational institution and that educational component as well, because it's all part of this support and our vow and our commitment to education. So last thing, Madam City Attorney, I just wanted to make sure that the amendment to the motion was clear. I know the council member came to me, and so it is doing some periodic monitoring of the conversations that are occurring between both parties.
Semi-annual, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yeah.
And so as well as there being maybe some conversations about an economic element of compensation by the community college for the impacts to the park grounds, whether they be parking mitigation or maybe some wear and tear to the roads, whatever that is. That's not going to be a huge amount, but I think it might be a good opportunity to include that in.
Do we have language that, Madam City Attorney, that you could give us for this
Well, I think there are
alternative
two
motion?
different issues. On the legal issue, we do have the license agreement that's here. Through the motion that the staff recommendation, you authorize both the city manager to make any final, minor amendments that we need to make. And I think the city manager addressed the other issues that I think he's proposing he deal with on the management side, that he just address those issues as they go into the next round of negotiations. If you wanted to incorporate it into the license agreement, I can do that, but I want to make clear that we're talking two different things.
I'll defer to the maker of the motion if he wants to.
But the interest, and I agree with what Councilman Sarmiento is, I think, trying to make sure we have clarified here is that any type of just compensation for wear and tear, whether it be parking in the roads and such, that it be beyond what the lease agreement that we currently have from back 30 years ago, and that it not be delayed until after any type of subsequent agreement, but that it be tied to this, a condition to this lease, to this license agreement. And then I do have a follow-up question as to this lease. Madam City Attorney, the lease, is there any type of exit clause where if come a couple years in, would we have, can we break the lease and say, and give
I would have a problem with that, just before you even answer that, because...
But wait a minute, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, with all due respect, I have the floor right now, I asked the question. I would appreciate for the city attorney to be able to answer. If we end up making an amendment or not, we all have opportunity to cast a vote at that point. Thank you.
Go ahead.
My understanding is under the original terms and the original license, it's very standard where we would incorporate the ability to terminate upon a major breach of the agreement, intentional misuse of the property, any of the terms that we have in the original agreement. All that we have before you tonight is simply an amendment to the term. We're just extending the term for 5 years. So the document for you tonight is one page, but there is an underlying license agreement that is still in play. It's what you originally adopted.
Okay.
So all those terms would remain in effect.
Thank you. Offline, I will want to follow up and look into the actual language. Thank you.
So do we have an alternative motion?
Just to be clear, so there's no confusion, I think what the city attorney is saying, that all of the other issues about charging for parking, charging for wear and tear, that's a whole new agreement because we don't have that currently. So that would have to be another negotiation. We would have to come back. The way I understood the motion was to go ahead and exercise a 5-year agreement, 6-month status reports, with the goal of having an agreement as to going forward in 18 months.
That is correct. That's what I understood. And we have a subsequent motion. Is there, does someone want to...
Correct, but I do want to make sure that what Councilman Sarmiento's point was that that we, whether it be as part of this, what I'm understanding from City Attorney, this license agreement, what we're looking at today is just extending the current license agreement. But there are these other impacts that have been discussed here. Want to make sure that we capture, that we don't continue to perpetuate what we have been, which is absorbing everything. But that we actually capture some.
So to answer that question, that was the intent of the 18 months, to come back with an agreement going forward that would incorporate all those issues, understand that this is a college education partner, not a private business, and that we would take that into consideration when we come back with you in 18 months with the community college with some type of agreement. That was my understanding.
Okay, the 18-month, the motion that I'm making, the 18-month clause, this is just a Band-Aid, simple, temporary, just to kind of, you probably are aware that what the district is ultimately looking for is a 50, 99-year lease, right? And so with that 18-month clause, what I'm mentioning is that within 18 months, we have some type of resolution to that longer-term question.
It would be a goal.
Right.
It would be a goal.
Correct.
It couldn't be mandated, but we would work with the community college to come back within 18 months for a long-term solution.
Thank you.
So do we have language on the subsequent motion?
Well, I think your motion as recorded in your minutes will be different than the license agreement that you're asking us to finalize. So your motion would reflect what the city manager's incorporated, that he would give you these updates every 6 months, that it would be his goal to work with staff to come back to address the impact issue, and that any future agreement contain the impact issue. But if you move forward with the motion tonight, the license agreement that's presented to you is what would actually be approved tonight.
Okay, so I'd like to call for a motion. Is there a motion on the floor?
We do have
There
a
is a
motion.
motion.
There's a motion and a second?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say thank you to the college staff for being here, our staff. One of the things that I do want to say is that even if we have land that is vacated at another part of the city, We do not have the money to create a park there. This partnership would allow us to create a park somewhere else. And one of the things that I want the community to really understand here is we're not dealing with an oil company who wants to drill for oil in our park. We're dealing with an institution of learning that increases the quality of life of the community in the city, or the citizens of the city. And there is a way to fight solvency, and that's all I said. So I have a very difficult time, Mr. City Manager, and I need to speak with my colleagues on this, is when we act as if our partners in education are trying to do something underhanded here for our community. The reality is, at the end of the day, we get to decide what a park looks like. We've given them direction that we don't, Mr. Roman Reina has said, we don't want just a little fire pit, and I don't think they would give us that. I think they would give us something substantial, and if it's not substantial, we're going to go ahead and not approve it. In the meantime, I also need to be very careful, because we do have this habit on the dais here to create new new additions to our ordinances, and I think that puts our staff in a very awkward position at times. And so I think that in the future we might want to communicate with one another, communicate with our staff of a potential change that we might be looking into, so that it's already on paper and we're looking forward to it. It's just being a little bit more prepared. With that, I would like to call the mayor back in and go into 25C, item 25C.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Oh my God, Mayor Pro Tem Tina Harrow, and I think
It's
we're going to be
like
asking
that.
Mayor Polito to come in. But on 25C is the graffiti removal, and I wanted staff to please come up here very quickly. And I know what we're doing here today, and it's just doing a third option for renewal with graffiti protective coating in an amount not to exceed $600,000 annually, and then ending February, and then authorizing the city manager to exercise the fourth option that we have in this contract. I do have a problem with that because of the substantial amount of money that we're giving the city manager to approve. So I think that the fourth option, if we do decide to go with protective coating, graffiti coating, that it come back to the city council just as in the consent calendar for us to approve as well. And the reason why I'm pulling this item, not just because of this issue, is because, as graffiti is a problem here in our city, and it will continue to be as we're a very young city. We're going to have some urban issues. But if you can please provide us an update on where we're at with our graffiti efforts, and to see if we're getting our return on our investment here. And I know that this company is doing a phenomenal job. They go over and beyond of their scope of work, and I certainly appreciate it. But I think the residents of this community need to understand that as well, and so do my colleagues. It's in the contract of all the great additional things that they're doing, 20 plus hours of cleaning up graffiti. They do community days, a graffiti wipeout with the community. That's all free of charge of that company. And I know many of us have been out there, and so we know that they're a very respectable company, and I support them. But from a staff perspective, assuring that they come here next time and what services they're providing, and then from a public works perspective, giving us an update on where we're at since we've hired this company. We know that I think we brought them on board in 2011 when we did this new RFP and the changes that we made, and they've come. We've renewed this contract the past 2 years, but we haven't received a progress report, of where we were at when we hired them and where we're at today. I think it's very important as we move forward in getting that kind of information.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. As you know, this contract was awarded in 2011, and it's a 365-day-a-year contract. And they have provided a level of service that's of high quality. It has reduced the incidences of graffiti. In the staff report, it does say that there's been a 30% decrease of calls coming in, and an overall 65% decrease in code enforcement activities as it relates to graffiti. I do have Pedro here that could maybe answer some more details, but they are an excellent service that's at our call for services that go even beyond what their basic scope of service is, which is to abate graffiti in the public right-of-way. Sometimes we have graffiti that's just visible, even though it's on private property. And so they work with us to gain access to that private property and to abate graffiti in that area. We've also have graffiti in some open channels and some areas that are hidden, and but then it's pointed out that maybe it's not so hidden from others' view. So they help us out and they abate that graffiti. And then, as you know, they also at no cost provide the two graffiti abatement days. We are going to have one of those days. I think it's at the end of February. And then we were requested to have a makeup day for those high winds that we experienced last fall. And so we will have a graffiti day, makeup day. I think it's going to be sometime in May. We will make that announcement at the next graffiti abatement day, and I think it's in late February. Pedro, do you know when that graffiti day is? Okay, so it'll be February 22nd. On that day, we will announce the makeup day, and we're also going to institutionalize having the 2 days on a fixed date in the fall and in the spring. And we will also make sure that there's also an alternate day already selected, so that in case something happens, weather doesn't allow us to have the graffiti day, we will have an alternate day already pre-selected.
Great. I also wanted to see if we can incorporate a day of service, during Martin Luther King Day. And I know my city manager has a different option for our employees, but I think we need to also incorporate a day of service for the entire community, our residents and businesses. And graffiti is something that is a high concern of our residents. So maybe having volunteers and working with this company to do a day of service, because I know a lot of people emailed me and called me, wanted to know what the city was doing, and we really don't do much. So I think that if we can partner up with this business to go out in our community and make it one of those days, I think from this point forward, as long as that we use this company. And then my second point was. You don't have to give an additional update, just that assure that you provide us more detailed information and how we're working with the graffiti task force and seeing how there's been an increase or decrease and how that relationship is going. Because I know a lot of times they're out there early and they're removing graffiti, but how we're communicating with the graffiti task force, are they taking pictures for us and sending it to the graffiti task force based on those monikers? And so that we want to be effective and efficient, and so we need to use the enforcement side and then plus the side that is actually cleaning up the graffiti, that we're working hand in hand to assure. And I know every time we go up to those cleanup days, our graffiti task force is present, but just providing that data to us would be greatly appreciated, because the community asks for this information a lot.
Yes, we could certainly provide that information either in our monthly reports or as a separate report. And we also have a My Santa Ana smartphone application. I know that maintains a lot of data that we can certainly summarize and report to the benefit of the community, knowing that it's an effective abatement program that we have.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and support this motion, but exclude giving the city manager the authority to exercise the right to approve the fourth option renewal. I think it should come back to the city council.
Do we need a chair?
I would be stepping, but do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second. Just real quick comment. Love the fact that we have designated time periods within the course of the year. It will help the community realize that every month or every February, every October, this is what we can expect. And then the way they can rally around it and support it, whether it be the faith-based schools or nonprofits. So definitely appreciate that. And the safeguard of having a substitute day, staff, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Additional comments? Over to Mayor Pro Tem. I have a comment, actually.
Go ahead, Councilmember Benavides.
For staff here, with regard, just to kind of touch a little bit on what Councilwoman Martinez mentioned, I think an update on some of those same items, specifically with the app and how that's working. More and more members of our community are going to smartphones. So I know that about a year back, there were a few kind of glitches that I think were still being worked out. So it'd be helpful to kind of get an update as to where things are.
And then if everything's ready to go, periodically, I think probably at a minimum once a year, we should go ahead and do like an education campaign, remind people that the app is there, it's available through using our PIO, community events, doing flyers, just to be able to, again, maximize the use of technology and this app. So if you can give us in that update what the status is on the app, and then help us to be able to promote it throughout the community, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
And with that, do we have a motion by Martinez, and is there a second?
Second by Reina.
Okay. So a motion, a second. Any more comment? I just want to say these guys are great. I remember before we got them what graffiti was like. I know we can improve it, and we will, but they're doing a great job. With that, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. So we've made it through three items here that were pulled.
We're 25F now.
Now we're on 25. Well, we'll skip 25B and E because they weren't pulled. So now 25F, and I believe that's Councilor Martinez.
Yes, and I'll be very quick with this, and I'm supportive. I just wanting to make sure that as we move forward with this, and we're getting a consultant to do this work, and what it is that we're going to execute various agreements for on-call right-of-way specialty service agreements. And what as we move, I know has to do a lot with our capital improvement project, the Warner and the Bristol Street widening. As we move forward, if I know all these projects are part of the CIP, but we're dealing with Bristol now, and the future going to be dealing with Warner. That as we get these folks to making sure that you're able to provide us some updates to know where we're at and what they're doing and what suggestions they're making. In particular, the thing that really I'm very focused on is wanting to make sure that the issues in regards to acquisition allocation as we move forward, wanting to make sure that the sensitivity with the business community is more heightened. We face some issues on Bristol, we face some issues on Grand, and certainly we have faced some issues on Bristol and Warner with some of the other businesses. I think it's very important that we are sensitive to the business community, and so whoever we hire to do that kind of work, that they understand that these are some guiding principles for this council, that we want to be supportive, even though that we're doing a widening and we're going to be doing acquisitions, that we do it in a manner that we're very respectful of that business and the tradition that they've provided, because many of these businesses have been here 15, 20, 30 plus years. And so I just wanting to make sure that we do that, and I want to thank our staff and our city manager for moving forward on this. I know this is very important as we move forward with what we do here as a city, to be able to have all these consultants on hand, so when we need to do certain projects or assessments, that we're able to utilize them immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councilmember on the left, let's go to the very far left.
I just have a question. How did we arrive with these figures for these consultants? Was it based just on average from what we've spent in the past?
That's correct. The experience has taught us that we should allocate approximately these amounts.
Okay.
And they're on-call services, so there's no guarantee that
we're actually going to spend this
that
much.
Amount, right.
Okay.
And generally, we want to have a couple of consultants available for the on-call service, because if we need them, we can't wait weeks at a time. If we need them to be available. Right. And so these are based on just our past experience and what we see as to how much right-of-way acquisition we're going to be undertaking. More information will become available to you when we present the budget and the CIP.
Thank you for clarification.
Reina, Councilman Reina.
Just for my own clarification, if we approve this, will this have any immediate impact on what we're talking about at Bristol and Washington and 17th?
Not necessarily, unless we appraise properties again, because the appraisals that we have already performed on the Bristol Phase 3B, those appraisals are getting dated. So once the council gives us direction as to what we're going to do, there could be a potential to have more appraisals done or reappraisals done. And I don't know where the old contracts are at. I don't know if they've already expired. So there could be that we have a need to use these folks, these consultants, to reappraise property and to look at the relocation and the fixtures, furnishings, and equipment.
would you anticipate that any action would take place in the next couple of weeks or months with Bristol? My concern is that we pulled it so that we can continue to talk about this, but then on this side, things may take course of action without our wanting to or without really direction.
I think when it comes to the Bristol Coalition and the issues that they have, we can continue with those regardless of whether this is awarded or not. But I just think that with this award, we have those resources available in case we have to reappraise property.
You know, I guess a request from staff is, when I was on the school board, we had a stoplight update about all the facilities and all the projects that we were going through the pipeline. Maybe that'd be something that we could have here as well, where the initial stages of a conversation taking place of whatever potential projects, an update in status, any time delays, any time crunches that we should be aware of, and then, of course, what projects are completed. That way we're able to take a real quick snapshot of it, and if we have any follow-up questions, it's easier for us to kind of follow that up. But at times when we're dealing with so many projects happening simultaneously, I'm sure it's difficult for you to keep your head on straight. On our end, who do this kind of a limited time in a weird way, it's difficult for us to kind of keep clear, and that type of tool would be helpful, at least helpful for me.
It sounds like we need to be providing you with a little more information in a summarized
Absolutely.
format. So
Thank
we'll
you.
do that.
Councilor Benavides, please.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the vendors out here that we're looking at for acquisition relocations, Overland Pacific and Cutler, I believe they were involved in Grand. Is that correct? I don't know if you recall, Mr. Galvez. I think they were, and they've been.
I'd have to ask maybe Take. I wasn't here at that time.
Okay. And a number of other.
Take says they were.
I think we've contracted with them for a number of years and a number of projects. I point them out because I do recall from some of the property owners out there on Grand, and they've just indicated that they did not necessarily have the best experience with dealing with this particular vendor. Their approach just seemed to be, as you're looking at businesses, families who are having to make some significant changes, transitions, relocating business, closing businesses, some that have been there a long time, similar to what we're seeing over on North Bristol. It just seemed to be less than, from the feedback I got, and I wasn't involved in any of the actual conversations, but less than patient and accommodating to some of these property owners, families. So I just want to make sure that we go back to this vendor, everyone else, to echo what Councilwoman Martinez mentioned. We want to ensure that in every aspect of what we do, that we're very professional, that we are business supportive, friendly, that we're think outside the box when it comes to solutions. And these folks, when they go out and meet with the public, they're representing us. And so it's very important that they take that role very seriously, and that they represent the city well. So I just want to make sure to send that message through. I'll go ahead and be supporting the item, but please go ahead and convey that both to Overland and to any of the other vendors that we might use. Thank you.
Very quickly.
So with that, please go ahead, Councilor.
Just I wanted to thank staff for putting the rankings in the matrix that you have in the staff report. It makes it much better to understand. For I guess for you, is this on a retainer where we're drawing down on these accounts as we need their services?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. The other thing was on subsection 2 of 25F, you have, or excuse me, subsection 3 on the goodwill and business appraisal services. There's allocations for $300,000 for Donna Desmond Associates, and then the second allocation for $300,000 to Desmond, Marcello, and Amster. Are those two independent firms, or I see Desmond in both? So I'm just.
Yes, they are independent. However, as you can see from the name, Donna Desmond is involved, and so when we evaluated.
So was she competing against herself, or?
Well, I think that two different firms submitted a proposal. She happens to be a
principal in both?
A principal or involved in both. And as you can see from the rankings, we only received those two for the goodwill.
Gotcha. I see Tag coming up to the podium. Tag, go ahead.
They are different firms. I think Desmond, Marcello, and Amster The Desmond there is the father of Donna Desmond, but totally separate firms.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're going out to a broad base of firms so they can compete. It looks a little odd when father and daughter, daughter and son, who knows, whatever the case is. But, there's certainly a lot of very good business appraisers out there and commercial appraisers. So to the extent that we do that, we certainly want to be transparent. We want to be fair, and we just want to make sure that we get these proposals out to as large we want to cast as large a net as possible when we submit these, because I assume that we went through some sort of procurement with these. So.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. With that, I'll support this as well.
All right, so did we have a motion on this? Do we have a second? So those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Councilor Martinez, is it now?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be very quick. I just want,
They indicated we had a motion from Martinez, second from Sarmiento, I believe.
Was that me? All right.
Well, you have it now. Is that okay? All right, and it passed unanimously. Sorry about that. Let's move forward. Is it 25G?
Yes, this is an agreement for pavement management consulting services, and I think, it was way overdue. I'm very glad that we're moving in this direction, because I really believe that this tool will be able to help us, determine our pavement conditions and everything else, and how we allocate, our resources to actually, maintaining, our roads. And as we move forward with our strategic plan, I think how do we align these kinds of projects and programs and policies to the funding that we're going to give with the capital improvement projects? I think we need to align those, and I know that you have a lot going on, William, and so I just want to thank you and your entire staff for putting this at the top of your list, because it is very important as we move forward as a city. And so I just wanted to thank you, and very supportive of this item.
That's a motion. I guess I'll second that.
Let's move on. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next item, Councilor Martinez. I think
Thank
it's
you, Mayor.
25I.
Yes, 25I. This issue here is just, I wanted to, get more of an explanation on, William, why we need to actually do this kind of agreement with this firm to do a study. Is it because we need to study the allocation of funds from Measure M2? I'm kind of confused why we would hire them why do we need somebody internal? Well, can't we have someone internally monitor that? Why do we need to go out there? Do you lack staff? What's the problem? I just wanted to know why we're...
In a nutshell, Santa Ana is the only city in Orange County that's doing this. When we submit reimbursements for our staff time to design and to deliver the construction management on a project, we, in order for us to get full cost recovery for our staff time, they require us to file a cost allocation study. That cost allocation study actually looks at our financial transactions and all of the budgets in our prior year, and they come up with what it really costs for us to have an engineer work on a particular project. So that cost allocation study adheres to federal and state standards. The study that we've selected to submit adheres to state standards, but they're very similar to the federal guidelines. That study is accepted by Caltrans, so if we ever get any Caltrans work done and we want to be fully reimbursed for our staff time, we can use that cost allocation study to submit it. So it's really a cost allocation study. It's a financial analysis that's performed. And so we need a specialty form to do this. This is a new requirement. What the city was doing before was, when we design a project, we'd submit for reimbursement what we thought we should be getting back. OCTA contacted us and they put a stop to that. They said, no, you're limited to salary plus 30%, which was what all the other cities in Orange County are doing, or you can do a cost allocation study. So we did one, we submitted that, we thought we were done, and then now OCTA came back to us in December and says, well, you have projects that are as old, going back to 2006. You're going to have to do a cost allocation study for every year going back. So we didn't just have to do one for last year, we had to go back to 2006. And so MGT had already performed our cost allocation study that's already been accepted by OCTA and been blessed. and so now we have to do those others. From this point forward, we will have to do a cost allocation study every year. So you will see a staff report for your blessing, and it may be a multi-year contract engaging a financial professional to do this.
If I may, just real quick, this 30,000 leverages much bigger dollars, is that correct?
Yeah, at stake is over $1 million in reimbursement.
So it's just to comply.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to
And I
approve.
certainly agree, but I also just want to state the fact that, if we're going to be doing this annually, where is this going to be coming out of? What budget?
It can be used for the same OCTA grants.
Okay.
It'll come out of OCTA.
All right, great.
So we have a motion?
Yes.
We have a second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Councilman, unanimous, by the way, Madam Clerk, since you want to know how we vote. 25J, Councilman Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just really quickly, and I support this item, but I did have a question because I know, the reason why we're doing this with InfoSend, we're going to save a lot of dollars with postage, et cetera. But I see that we're adding the paramedic subscription, and I just want to know how we are doing it with the paramedic subscription, because I know at a point in time, we were receiving certain sources of revenue from our residents. What marketing are we actually doing? Is this company in any way, shape, or form actually marketing this subscription to the residents, or is the Orange County Fire Authority doing so, or is Care Ambulance? So I'm just trying to, connect the dots, or are they just collecting the money?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. In terms of the paramedic subscription program, we obviously went through a transition because we transitioned OC Fire. And so recently, we've kind of been meeting with Care Ambulance and Whitman along with city staff in order to ensure that the revenues that we received in the past would continue.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because of the transition, it kind of dipped for now, but we anticipate recovering all the revenues by the end of the fiscal year. And so right now, we're working out those glitches. Now, recently, in terms of the marketing component of the paramedic subscription program, we met with Scott, the Scott Brown, as well as Whitman, and internally with Treasury staff, in order to begin the process of building a marketing component. There's two aspects of it that we're going to tackle. One is on those that utilize the current services, and then how do we get those that do not. So it'll probably be an education program, and we'll be bringing something forward to the city manager in terms of how we're going to build upon the current individuals who subscribe to the program.
Great, thank you. I wanted to know all this because I know we haven't had this conversation in about 2 years when we transferred over to the Orange County Fire Authority. And this is a significant source of revenue that comes into the city and then providing the service to our residents. And I know a lot of them have called talking about how, I know in the past our own firefighters and our paramedics would actually share the subscription with them. And we haven't been doing that. So I'm glad that you're talking with Chief Brown to assure that we bring that back. And then as well, how can we work with Gerardo and with our public service announcements on Channel 3 to promote it as well as another marketing too. So I think we need to do everything possible that we can to outreach to the community, whether it's on the water bill, whether it's a PSA, that we're able to go ahead and market that out to our community because, that was a really big service that we were able to provide out there in the community. And, we really just, because of the transition, changes occurred, and now you're telling me that we're going to recover our costs at the end of the year, and that's great. You guys are pushing it, but assuring that we have some reports to know what our progress is would be greatly appreciated.
That would be good. Yeah, I'll be more than happy then as we make progress in terms of our marketing component and all the elements that you talked about. We will surely consider as we move forward.
Great, thank you.
Mayor. Councilor Benavides.
We're still on 25J, right, Bill? And okay.
25H.
No, we're on
I'm
J.
kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Mr. Gutierrez, we spoke a bit earlier. Right now, what's being proposed here by staff is a 2-year agreement with 1-year renewal. We spoke about other potential vendors that we might want to consider. I don't know that we've necessarily gone out in recent past to test the market. There might be specifically some within our own city that might be able to provide this or similar type of work. So what I would Well, can you just speak to the idea if we were to change it from a 2-year agreement to a 1 year to allow for us to test some of that?
Yes, so what Councilmember Benavides is referring to is that back in 2007, we had done an RFP for bill printing and mailing, as well as online bill presentation, as well as payment. So that occurred in 2007. Since that time, Infosen has done a lot. You know, they've evolved their software program, especially in terms of the ACH and the credit card payment processing, because part of that is a comprehensive effort to make sure that the information is secure, especially the data information. So they've put a multi-tier level in terms of ensuring, for example, bill payer authentication and such, as well as protecting and encrypting information that goes across lines. So they've done a lot. And they've been, and with this proposal, they've accepted the fact that they would retain their current level of pricing. So we thought that was very, we liked that effort on their part. But we didn't go out and, search new vendors as you indicated recently. So what we had talked about is potentially changing the term of the contract to an initial 1-year term plus a 1-year option. And in the year, what we would do is go out and identify to see if there's other vendors that potentially can do the same thing. Most vendors are really in the bill printing side. They don't actually merge the bill printing and online bill on the online bill paying component. So, but we would be more than happy to go out there, and if we find somebody, then we would issue an RFP along those lines. Initially, in 2007, there was only 3 vendors. One moved out of state, and the other one did not have the online component. But be more than happy to come back and make and prepare a report for you indicating what we found out there.
Sure. Or with that, then what I'd like to do is amend the staff recommendation to make a motion that we do that the 1 year with the additional 1 year renewal.
Is there a second to the motion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Was that a
those
friendly
opposed.
amendment? A friendly
It was
amendment?
friendly.
Okay.
Oh, did you make? Was it
I made a
initial
motion, yeah.
Was it accepted?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I
thank
heard
you.
a comment. I didn't hear a motion, but okay. I appreciate that.
Madam
I'll
Clerk,
second.
please note. Thank you. So with that, where are we now? Are we through on to item 55A, would that be? I want to entertain a motion on 55. Oh, no, that's the one we're going to continue for 30 days, correct, staff? So with that, I would entertain a motion
So
for a 30.
moved.
Second. I'll second it. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. A brief report on 65A, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. We do have a good news report here on the revised forecast. I will do it at a high level, and then if there's any questions, please stop me. First of all, I do want to emphasize that the first order of business was to look at our finances. We have changed the revenue from 2% to 3%. Utility users tax has actually increased, not decreased, so that's had a benefit. We do have, and I'll turn to the slide. This was the previous forecast, and as you can see, in year 3, it went negative, and then it grew very rapidly. And when you look at the 5-year forecast revised, it really does show some improvements. The good news is that, again, revenue is up. Utility user taxes have actually stabilized. We do have better information on our retirement system, which is about $7 million less than we originally thought it would cost. Healthcare costs have come in very, very well. The water transfer will stay at the current level. We do have an increase for inflation of 2%, a very, very manageable 1% innovation and efficiency goal. And I do want to emphasize that the new forecast, as you can see here, which is basically very, very positive going forward, does include $2 million a year for the strategic plan, which is going to be very helpful. And the surplus grows over time because we reach our reserve level, and that's one of the reasons why it grows as you go forward. On page 6 of the report, revenue is up in every category. Revenue is up in sales tax, property tax, business licenses, hotel visitors, and we believe that our overall revenue growth is about 3%, and statewide the growth is anywhere between 4 and 6%. So again, we think we're going to be in good stead there. This is probably the most amazing chart that I've ever seen. I would like for you to emphasize on page 7, a few years ago, our reserve was down to $3 million. It's over $30 million now. And within a very, very short period, it will reach almost $42 million, which is 20% reserve. I would tell you, from the great city of Phoenix, it was less than 5%. Irvine's about 10%. So our reserve is a very, very sound reserve policy. Another concern that people had was our expenditures are way down from the pre-recession levels. Not true. We were at $211 million when the recession started. We're at $204 million. So we'll be pretty much within a year or two when we add some services in the plan back to pre-recession expenditures. We do have excellent economic indicators from auto sales at the auto mall are up 75%. Downtown sales taxes are up almost 8%. Assessed valuation is up. Building permits are up. Employment's up. Everything is very, very positive. And this bodes well for Santa Ana. We are going to have additional strategic planning meetings going forward. And again, what we're asking for tonight, Mayor and members of City Council, is that we adopt a revised forecast. Again, I think it's an important step. And I will conclude with a few comments. Number one is with this forecast and this positive trend, we can actually go to the Orange County Fire Authority and get our $3 million back and use that for Santa Ana. We will be saving millions of dollars in financing costs. Our credit will be improved. We'll become a better, more attractive place for business. They know we're going to be a good partner and that we will not default on any commitments. We never have and we never will. And also, we can finance our infrastructure at a cheaper cost. Our cash flow will remain positive with the reserve policy. And last but not least, we'll be able to attract excellent talent to the city of Santa Ana because they know they're coming to a place that is in a good position financially. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Let me just say thank you very much for that report. I would encourage council members, if you have questions, spend time with the city manager, get more information back. But thank you very much for the work that you're doing. With that, may we move on, or do we have Councilmember Sarmiento?
Motion, right?
We do. We do need a motion, so it's not just an item that we're going to. It's not
informational. So we move approval. Who would like to move?
Let me move it with comment, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. Look, I want to thank the city manager and his staff, and that was a good try, though. Almost let you get away with that one, but. Look, it's sometimes good news is worth spending a little moment to pause and reflect because it's excellent news. It's actually not good news. But one of the things I think that you went through very fast on was the PERS. And that's something that had, I think, the curves very different. Just a few months ago, right, Fran and Robert, when we went through this, I know that we were looking at a much more dire outlook. But look, the good news is that it's better. But can you walk us through that very quickly, Mr. City Manager, just very briefly on why that differential is not in the negative, but actually is a positive graph and it's a positive trend?
I will do that. And if I can turn to slide number 4. Mayor, Member City Council, the biggest impact was a bigger base, which is about $4 million a year throughout the forecast period, about $20 million total. And also the higher revenue growth, which is almost 50% higher than we anticipated, 3% versus 2%. Our utility user tax actually went up, not down. We also have money in every single year for both service level increases and salary increases, the best employees providing the best service. The pension costs, which were estimated in a very conservative manner, are actually $7 million less based on real actual information from CalPERS. Our healthcare costs are substantially lower based on information from personnel. We also have innovation efficiency of about 1%. All those numbers together result in a very positive forecast. But mostly, basically, revenue is going to be much better than we anticipated.
Got it. All that was understood. I was more concerned about the PERS and how that
CalPERS?
Specifically, right. And
okay.
so
Well,
the retirement-
CalPERS is basically, it's not a
actuarials.
huge difference, about a $7 million difference over 5 years. And originally, it was based on a cost of $98 million, Councilman Sarmiento, now versus about $106 million before. So it's about $7 million over the forecast period.
Got it. I just wanted to...
So it's just basic real information in
Right.
terms of the actuarial numbers.
Wanted to make sure we emphasize that, and I appreciate your staff working on the refinancing of some of the debt that we have. That's something that I know we've been trying to do for a few years, and I think now we can benefit from that. I wish we would have done it earlier because our interest rates were less, I think, a few years ago. But nonetheless, we'll still be able to capture some return now. We could have captured more previously. And finally, on the reserves, I'm glad that we're going to be strict with those. But if we continue on this trend, once we hit 40 million or more, we should probably reconsider our accessibility to those funds, because it's good to be healthy, it's good to be prudent, but we also don't want to not take advantage of some opportunities we may have with those monies. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank the staff. This is hopefully, this is cautious, this is conservative, but it is much better news than any of us anticipated 6 months, even a year ago. So to the extent you can share that again with the public, I certainly would appreciate it, because we all need good news, and this is good news that should be shared by all. So with that, I'll move the item.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the revised 5-year forecast. We have a second. Again, I know we all have more questions, so please come back to the city manager and ask, and we'll go from there. One question I'll have in the future is, I know at one point we had about 75 million in reserves. We didn't call it that, but we had different funds that we whittled down over about a 5-year period. So maybe later you can look at what we were like then, and we don't want to look like that necessarily in the future, but just to put it in a more general context, that'd be better, because here we're going from 3 to 41, which is great, but 3 is really the lowest we ever got, and that was scary, and we all remember that, those of us that were on the council during those days. So thank you for the good work, and please go ahead. I didn't know you had a comment.
Thank you. I have a couple questions for our city manager, but before I do that, I give him a hard time, but we got to hold each other accountable, and these are the reasons why I ask these questions. As we look at our forecast and we look at our budget, this is, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the voters. This is the power that this city council has of approving a budget. And that's a lot of power that we have as a body. And so we should not just, just say, hey, because we have a competent city manager, just go ahead and do as you please, and let's just move forward with a forecast or any budget, because it's important that we understand that we have that fiduciary responsibility and wanting to make sure that our money is spent correctly, not saying that our new city manager is not going to do that. But let's go back into history and the previous management that we did have. They misguided, they weren't honest, and it resulted in some very financial dire situations for the city of Santa Ana. And I certainly know that this city manager is not going to do that. He's actually very conservative with this forecast. But it's important to highlight that, because we needed competent management, and we have that today. But how we got here was because of this city council setting good policies to assure financial stability, and our staff supporting us in that. They had to make some very tough decisions, and they took it on the chin. And so I want to thank all our employees and our staff. We are now at a point where we can elevate our services out here in our community. We're going to be investing $10 million in our strategic plan. That's a positive note. We're going to be hiring more folks, and that's very positive, but it goes back to the policies that this city council made to have a reserve policy and looking at what we're doing in the future. I know, Councilman, I'm going to talk about the reserve policy first, mention possibly when we hit that threshold. I believe that, we do need to make some amendments to the policy, but I don't believe that we should touch that money that's in the reserve policy. I think we made a commitment to ourselves that any one-time monies, that we would go out there and spend for projects, but what we don't want to do is utilize any future money or this money to do, one-time projects that are not sustainable, because that's what put us in the position that we are in today, whether we gave salary raises to folks understanding that, they weren't sustainable, and put us in a really bad position. And we don't want to do that ever again. Making these tough decisions that we did over the years, I'll tell you, they were very hard. I was unable to sleep because I knew the impact that this was going to make to our employees in the city. And having to regionalize our fire authority, that was a difficult decision that this city council made. I didn't vote on that because I couldn't. But let me tell you, I understand the position that this city council was in. So I think as we move forward, that we need to continue to still be conservative and assuring that everything that we do is structurally sound and sustainable, because that's the only way that we can move our city forward in a positive note. But with that being said, I also wanted to ask you a couple questions, Mr. City Manager, in regards to the UUT, and we talked about this in our meeting on Monday, but I just want you to explain to the community that as we stabilize our revenues and we're modernizing it, that assuring that the funds, that we're not going to lose any funds, because I know we're modernizing it, and the loss of possible those funds and what it does to the actual fund. So if you can explain that really quickly to our community so they know that there may not be a net loss.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. That's an excellent question. We have right now a UUT that's outdated, and we want to take that as approved unanimously by the City Council to a public vote that will modernize it and assure with certainty that the kinds of utilities that we're taxing can be recovered. And so we do believe that even though we're going to decrease it from 6 to 5.5%, which is the goal, because we have a broader base with new revenue sources, and also right now there are some businesses that have a cap that would no longer apply, that it would be revenue neutral. That would be the goal. We think we'll get close to that, but long term it would actually be a positive for the city of Santa Ana.
Great, thank you. And then I just wanted to state for the record, because in our last approval of the budget, I didn't support the water transfer, and I will continue not to support that water transfer. I won't go into it. I know that you made a commitment to continue to do that study, and I'm grateful, and hopefully that we'll have that in the near future. And then my last, the 1% ongoing innovation and efficiency savings, you're saying annually. How are we going to get there? I know from, we've made a lot of cuts throughout the organization, and I know we're making some new, we have some new positions coming on board throughout the organization. But based on this 1% innovation and efficiencies, and with the new people that we're going to hire, how are each agency going to get, how are they going to get there, and how are we going to continue that, and so that we can have that additional $1.4 million throughout the organization?
Great question again. Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. So we're not looking at cuts. These aren't cuts. We don't want to have any reduction on city services. What I've challenged the management that if they have $1 to try and do equal or better service for 99 cents. There's lots of ways you can get there. Our water meters, for example, right now are manually checked, every single one of them. Most cities have wireless communication to do that, so you can save a lot of money to do that. Our meters don't have credit cards. When you have credit cards, you can save money. Our street lights have very high electric usage bulbs. We're trying to buy that back. So I believe, and I'm working very closely with the management, that we can achieve that goal. It's a very conservative goal. I have experience in this area, I've been very successful in it. Again, this is a dynamic forecast. Every year we will update it. Revenues might be better. In other areas, we might adjust. But I think a 1% efficiency goal is very manageable.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, with that, other comments? I would entertain a motion. We have them. You did earlier. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. So with that, are we now on item 75A? This is time and place for a general plan amendment number 2013-01 to update the Senate general plan housing element and the public safety element. Madam Clerk, are there any written communications?
Yes, we received a letter of support from the Kennedy Commission that has been distributed to the City Council via email.
Okay, I would now turn it over to, do we have a brief staff presentation, or if not, go ahead, Karen. Go ahead.
Excuse me here. That is not it. I apologize. There's several presentations on the computer here. Yeah, I hope so. Nope, that is also not it. Maybe I can ask one of my staff members to come up here and find it on here. And in the meantime, wait, I think I may have found it. Yay, there it is. Okay. Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight we have our update to the city's housing element, and this is also really for us another item in the category of very good news. The city has had now a long track record of having very progressive and innovative housing policies, and this next cycle of update for the city's general plan continues on that round of policies and begins to also expand it into some new areas that have come out of the extensive outreach that we've done with the community and also the input from the City Council. As you know, the housing element is just one section of the general plan that's mandated by the state for the city to have, and it is the only element that the state mandates that we update on a regular basis. It addresses housing supply, quality, and affordability, and it must be reviewed and certified by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. Our final certification will be pending the council approval, but we have already received our letter from the state saying that they are happy with our program so far, so we're very glad about that. In 2006, when the current housing element was adopted, the City Council really took a visionary approach to coming up with a new housing vision that really focused on creating a broad range of housing opportunities for all members of the community, and that was a great move forward. In this housing vision, we've maintained that language and added one new component to focus also on creating policies around health as it relates to housing. And that entire mindset and policy vision has been implemented and woven throughout all of the policies that are in this new housing element. Major planning efforts since the previous element was adopted. We do use this as a work document for ourselves, and we measure our performance against being able to achieve the goals that we set out in the implementation plan. And so since that time, we have been very successful in adopting several major codes and other ordinances that have implemented that housing vision from 2006 to 2014. Notable among those was the adoption of the Transit Zoning Code, the Housing Opportunity Ordinance, the Reasonable Accommodation Ordinance, and the Emergency Shelter Zone changes, the SB2 ordinance that was adopted. On a going forward basis, we're also working to implement the Downtown Wellness Corridor, working with Healthy Communities, updating the Harbor Boulevard specific plan, and also adopting the circulation element. This is a progress report on the housing production that has been achieved in the city during this last planning cycle compared to the housing goals that the state sets for us, or the regional housing needs allocation. During the last planning cycle, the city was identified as having a need of 3,393 units. And of course, the city doesn't build housing, but we're required to show that there is land available or that can be rezoned to provide this housing. And we are also then broken down into various income categories to show that those can be provided in the city. And so during that planning cycle, overall, the city did produce 2,519 new units and broken down into the various income categories there. If you were to compare this to cities throughout the state, we would compare very, very favorably. The city has done an excellent job, particularly in working in some of those very tough to reach income categories, the very low and low income categories. These next few slides just give a few examples of some of the housing production that's been achieved. These three projects are all market rate for sale products, so Avenue E over on Edinger, the Sycamore Lofts, and Canopy Lane. In the category of affordable housing, 3 newer projects, the Triada projects that were opened up in the downtown, Terraces at Santiago in the Logan area, and then on the drawing boards is the depot at Santiago. In terms of housing rehabilitation, the city's also been very successful in working with developers who specifically focus on acquisition and rehabilitation of existing housing. And most often these result in taking apartments that were in bad condition, overcrowded, smaller units, combining those units, renovating everything, creating larger bedroom units, and really creating a great value with that rehabilitation money. And so for several projects that were accomplished during this last planning cycle, Wilshire and Minnie, Ross Durant, and Townsend Rate. The city has also been very successful in providing for special needs housing. The Vista del Rio project was 40 units for the developmentally disabled. Wycliffe is an existing project, but working through helping them extend their bond financing, we were able to covenant that for an additional 55 years of senior housing, very low income. And we are also working with the Salvation Army for a new plan for them to expand their emergency shelter. And on that same note, we're also working very actively with the county to identify a new location for a multi-service emergency shelter to replace the armory. So that's another major initiative that we're working on right now, and the policies in the plan support that effort as well as the adoption of the SB2 ordinance that the council did. For ongoing, our RENA numbers going out from here for the next planning cycle are dramatically reduced. This is based just on regional allocation and projections of population growth. So whereas before in our last planning cycle we were over 3,000, we're down to 407 units now total that we need to show that we can be able to provide land to accommodate those. We'll easily be able to meet that target for rezoning land through the harbor specific plan update. I'd now like to turn it over to Mark Hoffman with the Planning Center. I'd like to go over some of the policy components of the plan. Mark?
Okay, thank you very much, Karen. As Karen had mentioned, the current housing element that you have before you is actually an update to the award-winning 2009 plan that you adopted. And at that time when you adopted it in 2009, what it did was set off a whole series of goals, policies, and programs that staff could implement, resulting in, of course, in many of the projects that Karen has noted, affordable housing, market rate housing, and a number of wonderful planning studies that will really guide your future. And so the document that you have before you is a continuation of much of that policy. It worked and it will remain in the document. However, to make sure that the document remains relevant and addresses some of the more contemporary issues, there were some selective updates that were made for 4 primary reasons. So for example, there have been a number of changes to state legislation and the funding context. You're all aware of that. State laws, loss of RDA, home funds, etc. That is reflected in the document. The second major change was due to community priorities for health and wellness. And what's unique here about Santa Ana is that you have a number of nonprofits, stakeholders, and residents all interested in changing the built environment to improve health and wellness. That whole context is reflected here in the housing element. The third major thing that was done was to make sure that the housing element is tied to and positions you well for your upcoming update to your comprehensive general plan and your zoning ordinance. Huge things that are going to transform the city over time. We believe the housing element adequately reflects that as well. And then finally, what the housing element does contain is many of the comments that we heard over the entire period of the update. Not just HCD, but also your residents, your stakeholders, your foundations, your businesses. All of those comments are reflected and embodied in the housing element that you have here today. So what's changed? Well, what I would like to do is go through a couple of highlights. I'll keep it at the 10,000 foot level. You've got a huge document in front of you. But I would like to go through several of the changes that we think define your new housing element. With respect to goal number 1, housing in neighborhoods, which was a goal in your prior housing element, there have been 3 new policies that have been added. Policy HE 1.3 and 1.4 really articulates a commitment to have complete neighborhoods and healthy neighborhoods. Not just housing, sticks and bricks, but looking at the entire environment in which housing is placed, looking at parks and recreation, trails, safe streets, and the like, and really looking at the larger neighborhood context. Policy HE 1.6 is, again, affirming the concept of proactive code enforcement, something that you've had in place for quite a long time, but now the funding is available to really implement those concepts, and so we do have some programs as well. These 3 policies are implemented by 3 programs. You're well aware of program number 7. The city was selected as one of the 14 communities of the California Endowment to make a 10-year, $10 million place-based investment. We wanted to make sure that that commitment is embodied into the housing element, and staff also is assisting in that effort. Program number 8 refers to the city's building community efforts, not necessarily foundation, but what you're doing internally to also build community. So it may be your programs with community gardens, community centers, all the parks that have been built and the ones that you've been discussing today, as well as the Green Santa Ana program. Those are things that you're doing internally to also create a healthier living environment for your residents. And then finally, program 10 builds off the proactive code enforcement, and it commits the city to research best practices in healthy housing standards and some really interesting tools that code enforcement can use to make sure that the housing that is built is well maintained over the long run. So goal number 2 is housing supply and diversity. It remains the same as the prior housing element, but there have been 4 new additions for policies. This slide shows 2 of them. The first policy, which is HE 2.2, reiterates the city's commitment to continue to focus growth in areas where it makes sense. District centers, transportation corridors, places that can accommodate growth and the kind of growth that you want to see, as well as providing for mixed-use housing opportunities. Policy 2.4 speaks to the diverse housing types that are articulated in your vision and what you'll be promoting over the next number of years, and frankly, you've already been doing with the projects that Karen has shown. These are implemented by 3 particular programs. Program 19 is to complete the update and the adoption of the Harbor Corridor Specific Plan, which is scheduled later in 2014. And programs 20 and 21 reflect your commitment to do a comprehensive update to your general plan and your zoning code that not only just provide housing, but really define the future of the city, of which housing plays a part. 2 other new policies in Goal Area 2 are for housing design and affordability. These essentially address how you house your residents, the affordability of the housing, and the design of the housing to make sure that it meets the right income targets, looks good, functions well. And there are 3 programs that are committed to implementing those policies. Program number 2 commits to implementing the latest in sustainable and healthy designs, including revising codes through the zoning code to encourage things like active living in multiple family complexes and other types of products. Program 29 commits to implementing the Housing Opportunity Ordinance to not only produce affordable housing, but also define and have a priority for who can actually has first access to those units. Santa Ana residents, employees in Santa Ana, and the like. And then the final program, number 13, commits the city to explore adaptive reuse of structures, both for housing and non-housing purposes, to make sure that those historic structures are maintained and they're preserved in good working order. And finally, I would like to jump to Goal 4, which is special housing needs. That again was a goal that you had in your prior housing element. It's been tweaked slightly to address some contemporary issues. 2 new policies. Policy 4.5 is healthy homes, and Policy 4.8 is a housing priority. And what Policy 4.5 does, it embraces a philosophy of a healthy home that are free from hazards such as lead-based paint, vermin, mold, asbestos, smoke, and other types of toxins that really detract from people's health. They cause asthma and other types of issues, particularly with children and those with compromised immune systems. And Policy 4.8 makes it clear, and it provides that Santa Ana residents, employees, and designated special needs groups have priority and preference for affordable housing, which is subsidized or assisted by the city. And that's also something that we heard over and over again through our outreach program. And finally, I did want to highlight 3 programs that are going to implement these policies. Program number 54 commits the city to explore the feasibility of multi-generational housing concepts that really meet the need of where you are here as a city. For your immediate family, your extended family, your parents and grandparents, places that they can live without moving to other portions of the county to find affordable housing. And Program 56 would commit the city to working with the community and researching options for consideration of a smoke-free ordinance in multiple family housing. It doesn't commit to adopting the program, it commits to researching and coming back to the Planning Commission and the City Council with alternatives that you can consider and amend as you see fit. And then finally, Program 29, this is part of your Housing Opportunity Ordinance. There is an action item to, again, revisit the issue of priority and preferences to make sure that Santa Ana residents' employees have first access and priority for housing that's been assisted here by the city. So wrapping it up, where are we at this point? Well, as Karen had mentioned, you have received a letter from the Department of Housing and Community Development. And what that letter states is that if the housing element is adopted in its present form, or substantially in its present form, you will receive a letter of certification in 90 days following your adoption. And so that's what we're here for this evening to discuss and hopefully adopt the housing element. Once the housing element is adopted, the actual statutory deadline is February 12th. And following that, it will be submitted up to the state of California for a final 90-day review. They'll do a quick check to make sure that the commitments that were made were those that were adopted. Also, coming up this summer, it looks like there will be an adoption of the Harbor Corridor Plan, which, as Karen had mentioned, will satisfy your regional housing needs numbers. And then finally, any type of rezonings that might occur as part of that plan, there would be a deadline up to about February 2017 to make that happen. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me now open up to the public, and we have one speaker. So now for the public portion of this public hearing, I want Daisy Gonzalez to please come forward and speak.
Good evening. I'll try to make this quick. I'm here representing the Kennedy Commission and also the Land Use Working Group. I'm here today to thank city staff and council members for working diligently on including health and the needs of the lowest income Santa Ana and Orange County residents in the housing element draft. Reflecting health in the policies of this plan and facilitating the development of quality, safe, healthy, and affordable housing is very important for the city of Santa Ana residents, as we witnessed in the strategic planning forums recently. We are proud of the city for continuing to implement the Housing Opportunities Ordinance, for strengthening code enforcement programs, in order to focus on accountability for the allowance of substandard housing, and for focusing on the health impacts of limited access to quality, affordable housing. In addition, the Kennedy Commission urges the city to explore funding opportunities from returning funds after the loss of RDA for the development of affordable homes. Affordable homes will significantly improve the quality of life for many lower-income working families and residents. I'd also like to add that it's important to integrate the housing element priorities with the strategic planning for the next 5 years. The Kennedy Commission looks forward to implementing this plan to support all working residents and families in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other members of the public that wish to address us, I will now close the public hearing and bring it to council for consideration.
Motion to approve.
Second, with comment.
Let's go ahead, comment.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to personally thank our staff, and I know Jay Trevino is not here, but you know the tremendous amount of work that he put in with his entire staff. I went to many of the forums with the community, and just the outreach that was done was exceptional, and just really making a commitment to implementing health in all policies. And certainly, we understand that the state of California has mandated us on the housing element to add a component and a safety component. But what's important is that having the state already approve, they already said, they blessed our document. Now we just have to go through the process of the public hearing and then the adoption from the council. But it speaks volumes to this plan. And so I also want to thank you, Mr. Hoffman, for the great work that you've continued to do in understanding our community and the needs. We've gone, and I also want to thank my colleague, Councilman Sarmiento, as when we move forward with adopting the opportunity housing ordinance, and really what that meant and what it's doing for our community. We certainly may come back and make some amendments to that, but all these things and policies and programs that we're putting in this draft of the housing element really speaks to our commitment, if adopted, what the community's commitment is to have a safe, providing more opportunities for housing, and most importantly, assuring that we're able to connect housing with our general plan and our zoning ordinance, which is very key. We need to make sure that we're able to connect housing with transportation, with jobs, because at the end of the day, if we're able to do that, we're going to be able to not only provide good housing, but we're going to be able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and providing different modes of transportation to get people to and from where they live. And so I think we're moving in the right direction. I'm very excited about the plan. I hope as when we adopt the policies that we need to consider, enacting into law, that my colleagues that you presented here will be receptive to them, to our commitment to health and wanting to build a healthier community in Santa Ana. But I also wanted to add, as we did this opportunity housing ordinance not too long ago, as we work with the development community, I know we have various fees or community benefits that we ask the development community, but for example, the in lieu park fees, maybe addressing that issue again, the Quimby Act, but then we need to bring those issues back and we need to address them of how we're going to be able to deal with our parks and our open space. But another component that I wanted to add, and I was talking to a developer about today, is that when we look at the community benefit in a development, as we are wanting to build a healthy community, and I'll say that Barry Cottle with CNC Development has done a wonderful job when it comes to educational opportunities and having tutoring centers within his development. So bringing that holistic approach and helping our residents within education. But as we look towards health, I mentioned a concept today, that Sacred and building healthy communities and others have talked about, but they've talked about it, doing it in a school, but I think that we can do it in the development. And I've seen some concepts in Northern California where we actually could have wellness centers within developments. And what I mean about a wellness center, where we'll be able to provide medical, dental services, and other prevention offerings, whether it be community gardens or professional kitchens to do cooking demonstrations. I think that's thinking outside the box. It's a community benefit. That's what we're asking for. The city can't do it all, but if we can work with our partners within the private sector to provide a community benefit like that, and getting a nonprofit organization or the city to actually run those programs, I really believe that we can do a lot of great things. And so I hope that we're able to look at things in the future, and again, with the Quimby Act and the in lieu fee for parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? If not, I believe we have a motion, a second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item 85A, I would entertain a motion.
Second.
First. Well, motion by Benavides, second Tinajero. Those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed, motion carries. Now let's go to the blue agenda. That's the Housing Authority. I would entertain a motion. I believe it is.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk, is that the entire thing, or do we need a second one? That's it? So then we come back to city manager comments and then council member comments. City manager, any comments?
No report this evening.
Thank you. Councilor Martinez, why don't we, let's go with you and then we'll go from there. Got it, go.
I want to start off by, I think we won't be here, but wishing everyone a happy Valentine's Day. I know we have Black History Month. We just celebrated the TEP Festival, and it was a great opportunity to be out there with that community. And I also wanted to, talk about a couple other things and new positive things that are happening in the city. We recently just hired 4 new code enforcement officers that I think 2 of them have already started, and 2 will be starting next week or so. And so that's a positive step in the right direction to our commitment to the quality of life, not only within our business community, but as well with our residents, and hoping that this next fiscal year as well, that we'll make another commitment to hire more, because we certainly know that there's a need out there in our neighborhoods, and we need to make sure that we have the appropriate staff to be out there to be monitoring some of the issues that we face in the commercial and in the residential areas. I also wanted to include I know that our code enforcement is working with the Santa Ana Police Department and its volunteer program, and I know we got a report today. I think our city manager sent that today, and I read the attachment, and I just think that's a great opportunity. So we're providing more opportunities for our residents to be engaged, and so we're moving in a positive direction. So I want to thank our staff from the Santa Ana Police Department and in code enforcement for really moving forward with that program. Then the next thing I wanted to talk about, and you talked about it in the housing element, is the wellness corridor. Recently, we had the celebration of the opening of the wellness corridor. But now what are the next steps for the city? And I think we have a lot of policy decisions that we need to take into consideration as we move forward. I know I met with America Bracho and Nancy last week in the discussion of the wellness corridor and the commitment from the city. We all showed up as elected officials saying, "Roo-ha-ha, we're supportive, great, we walk the corridor," but what are the next steps? And one of the next steps that we need to consider is a policy in regards to the restrooms and how we're going to open those facilities and how we're going to work with the community. I know we've been working, they worked with Mark Lawrence in the past and our planning director, Jay Trevino, and so we need to take those next steps. And so I would urge our city manager's office to coordinate a meeting to assure them that there is a commitment, and then some of the next steps that we will be taking to help assure that the wellness corridor is a success. The next issue I wanted to address is Mr. Moet. He's probably in the back, but as we move forward with pedestrian safety and bike safety, we're going to be having a youth bike safety forum on February 22nd. It looks like a lot of things are happening on that day, but we're going to have an opportunity for our youth to give feedback and then make some assessments as we create a comprehensive program as it pertains to pedestrian and bike safety. I think the community has asked for that, and so that's just one step that we are moving forward by asking our youth, because we know that we need to include our youth. And so I want to thank our director, Mr. Moet, and he's not coming, so I know it's on the 22nd, and I think it's at 3 p.m. in the Santa Ana Library, but I'm not sure. But we'll be able to provide updates. We'll be sending a Nixle, putting it on Facebook, and other media technology to inform the community about this forum. I also mentioned to our city manager, and I wanted to do public comment on this. I had a conversation with our Assemblyman Tom Daly, and as we talk about open space and parks, this weekend, I had a ride along with our city manager and our Parks and Rec director and his intern as we did the Santa Ana Bike Trail and all the new improvements there. But we still are very park poor, and so I was talking to the assembly member, and he and many legislatures right now at the assembly are looking forward to a new bill as it pertains to parks and recreation. And so the assembly member asked me to ask our staff to make an assessment and what are two top properties or priorities of where we actually want parks. And so if we can communicate with Assemblymember Daly staff, Matthew Hicks, they're going to be waiting for that information. That legislation, the Assembly member's working with 4 others, so he's hoping that legislation is going to be moving forward and hoping to have more commitment with funds with parks. And so I think that's good news, not only for the city of Santa Ana, but for the county as well, where there is park poor areas in the county. And my next, and I'm going to end with this, I would like to get a couple updates, and I mentioned in our public safety committee, but our city attorney wasn't present, as we deal with the issues of with the food trucks out in our community. I know we've had an injunction for various years. We haven't done anything about it. Our public safety, our code enforcement hasn't been able to enforce these issues. The city council really hasn't addressed these issues. It's now come to a point where we need to bring it to the top of a priority list as we look at building a healthier community, a better quality of life. We need to figure out how do we work with those folks, or what policies are we going to set set to assure that we're able to mitigate some of the safety hazards and health hazards that we have in those communities. Madam City Attorney, if you can please look into this issue and provide us possibly a report at the Public Safety Committee and then bringing it here to the full council so that we can take some next action steps. And then as well, I've asked for some other issues, and I know you guys are currently working on them, but I want to just put them on the record to assuring that we have next steps moving forward, is the alternative analysis on the ballot measure for the medical marijuana. I know our staff has been working on that. I'm not sure where we're at, but if we can be please presented with a memo and what the next steps are for action for the city council, and then as well the red light cameras, and what are we going to do with that? And I know our city manager has already provided me with a memo, and our city attorney has worked on that with our chief of police. But the next steps, what exactly is it that we want to do? I know what my opinion is that I think that we need to end the contract and move forward, and I think that's something that that it will end 15 months from now. And so given notice is the direction that I would like to take, but I'm only one member of the council, but I just wanted to put this on the record of where I stand on these current issues and the next steps that we take as a council. And with that being said, have a great evening.
Thank you. Councilor Sarmiento.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And on that last point on the lunch trucks, Sonia, you should contact Fred Sayer. He's the attorney that represents the lunch trucks, just in case. I think this was before Judge Carter as well. The only thing I want to mention is Relay for Life. They're going to be doing their event on the 13th of April, so we've got a little bit of time, but they're sponsoring, the American Cancer Society sponsors an event where it brings awareness to folks in the community about the impact of cancer and what it has on all of our lives. Many of the survivors, many people who are supportive. We've always been supportive, so I just wanted to see if, Mark, you can work with them. I know that they sent a list of things that they might want us to be helpful with. It's a great cause, cancer. None of us are immune from any of the impacts. Many of us have friends, relatives who are impacted, and some of us personally. So it's a very, very important thing. So if I can just urge you to do that, and I'm hoping to put together a little group of council members so we can walk as a relay, as a team. So I know Sal was bugging me to be on my team, but I'm not sure. He may,
we're going to win.
He may not pass that baton as quickly as I'd like, so I'm just kidding. Finally, I want to embarrass our city attorney for a moment. She was in the edition of Super Lawyers, and that comes out for those of us who are nerds in the law. It highlights the work and the achievements and accomplishments that attorneys in the community make. And so Sonia was one of the featured attorneys in the area of public law. So kudos, Sonia. Congratulations. She had some very nice things to say about her time here in Santa Ana. So congrats. And I'm smart enough to know to exit on an applause, so I'm done. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Tinajero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. To all the gentlemen out there, I just wanted to let you know, if you haven't made your reservation for Valentine's Day, the clock is ticking. There's nothing worse than waiting to the last minute and you end up at Pup and Taco. I've never ended up there because I'm always forward thinking. But I do want to just say, and I'm speaking to myself on here, so I don't want people to think that I'm being, altruistic or anything like that. I'm also speaking to myself, is that I think we as a council have to be careful when we start to negotiate with our people here on the dais. I think we can run into a legal issue. More importantly, we can do a better job of preparing ourselves so that we don't have to do that, because it puts people in an awkward position, especially our staff. It's something that has been ongoing, and I've been guilty of it myself, but it doesn't mean that we can't improve and get better at that. I think it's going to make us more efficient. But with that being said, I will take my own comments and reflect on those as well and apply them to myself. And again, don't wait till the last minute, because it's not a good night if you wait till the last minute. You'll be having 2 Valentine's Days, one with your wife and one by yourself with the kids, trying to figure out a way to make mommy happy the next week.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember
I just have one
Amezcua.
quick announcement. I do want to mention that OCFA is moving forward with the hazard reduction project along the Santiago Creek, and they will be doing an outreach this week to all the residents that live along the creek. This project is strictly to remove any hazardous vegetation that can cause a potential fire, and it's going to be limited to the public-owned property only. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that it's strictly for hazard reduction. And also, I do want to thank our city manager for giving us the wonderful news and putting together our mid-year review and the budget forecast. It's always good to hear good news. And I also want to take the time to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. And if you haven't bought a gift yet, shop in Santa Ana.
Thank you. Councilmember Reyna, please.
Try to keep it brief. First of all, I would like to direct staff if they could send a tidbit of the students that are doing the Pledge of Allegiance. If we can get them a copy of the video or take it out to the school, I think it'd be fantastic. Our young people engaged, and to be able to be at that level is absolutely fantastic. So if we're able to do so, I greatly appreciate it. And speaking about young people, and at the Parade, we had an opportunity to introduce a few things that I'm really excited about. We'll be launching year-round sports that will include basketball, rookie ball, and flag football. We're going to be conducting after-school programs sites as well in limited areas. So we are really investing into our young people, which is just extremely exciting. Bringing back the old Camp Catalina, which I can't wait for August to participate. To me, again, an ounce of prevention beats a ton of cure, and the fact that we're investing in one of the youngest communities in the nation is just absolutely fantastic. This past weekend, like a lot of my colleagues, we had an opportunity to participate in the Tet Festival, which was absolutely incredible. The amount of people that were participating, there was a diverse population there, so it brought everybody from the community there. Definitely want to thank my colleague, Councilman Amezcua, for wanting to ride share together and to actually lower our carbon footprint. You know, we talk about conserving, and it's easier when we do little things. It's easier when we take proactive approaches versus sitting up here and just talking about it. So the fact that we were able to do so and lower that carbon footprint was absolutely fantastic. And speaking about lowering the carbon footprint, shop in Santa Ana. Shop in Santa Ana. You don't, no need to leave our community. The Valentine's is coming up. Shop right here in Santa Ana. And the last I'd like to leave, if we're able to close in the memory of Ricardo Carnedas, who is a member of Mayberry Park Neighborhood Association. He recently passed away. Greatly appreciate that.
We'll do so.
Thank you.
Councilor Benavides, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank City Manager for one of your first reports, and it was a very good one. Let's just keep them coming that way, all right, David? It's a good thing to see just the reforecast. Thanks for your leadership there. We worked hard over the last number of years, and I think we're in a good place.
I'm going to revise it with all of the Valentine sales that are coming.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. After February 15th, should look even better. And for our staff, EMT, who has been working very hard for some time during some lean times, some tough times, and all of our employees really are our different labor groups, employees who came together over the last couple of years. We became a lot thinner as a city. We had folks who were here with us and are no longer on our team because we again went through some very difficult times, tough times. I'm glad to be able to say that we did come out of it well and ahead, and things are looking good going forward, to the point that we have some additional reserves and even quote-unquote surplus to a certain degree that we can now start looking at rededicating. I think economic development is one of the key areas that we need to look at in investing in our city, drawing business in, supporting business expansion, new jobs, and that again then turns around into more revenue, which then it just is a good cycle, a healthy cycle to be in. And when it comes to funds as well, I mean, looking at other priorities, and we talked a bit earlier about parks and the need for parks, and ultimately we set policy, we set priorities, and maybe we don't have to look at receiving funds from another entity, another education school district, because we have the funds to be able to support what we need, what we want to do, and priorities. There's reference a bit ago about monies from the state as well for parks and parks expansion. So maybe we could preserve the park space that we do have and use funds to be able to enhance and create those without having to lose park space, park land. And when it comes to parks, there was reference about land that was given by the district, by the city to the school district, K through 12, over the years. And there is a significant distinction between adult education and K through 12 when it comes to property values, when it comes to supporting families and drawing families into the city. It's that K through 12 school that makes a significant impact. If you have a school nearby, it adds to the desirability of a neighborhood, it adds to property values, it adds to sustainability. It is very different to have a K through 12 versus an adult education center. Not that they're not needed or helpful, but there is a key distinction that I think we do need to consider and be mindful of going forward. But it's been referenced already before. There's a significant day here coming up in February 14th, and a lot of us go out and spend some money. Let's make sure to spend it and shop in Santa Ana. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. It's right around the corner. And also, at the request of council members, I want to adjourn actually in memory of two individuals. One is Ricardo or Ricky Cardenas from the Mayberry Park area, and maybe later to the clerk, Councilor Reyna can provide additional information, and we can send our condolences out to the family. And also the same request of Mayor Pro Tem Tinajero, because he asked me to close the name of Marvin Starks. He worked for the juvenile hall, and I believe also he was a boxing coach for Mayor Pro Tem Tinajero when he was boxing. So if you can provide later more information to the clerk, we'll make sure that boxer, cheerleader, good-looking guy, does debates. But in all seriousness, I want to close in the name of Marvin Starks, and Mayor Pro Tem will provide the clerk more information. So that we are adjourned.